much for being here. We surely do appreciate you. Hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday. Hashtag Weasel Wednesday. Omni, what's happening, buddy?
Hey, how you doing, everyone? I'm the last Omnitech, your favorite white American, and I have to take a moment away from the intro to say I love Weasel Wednesday. Hashtag Weasel Wednesday.
Hell yeah.
I am absolutely using that in the marketing moving forward.
Let's fucking go.
So, hello, everyone, and welcome to Mouse Guard: The Frontier. I guess. Is that bi-monthly? Will be bi-monthly.
It is bi-monthly. We do it
Yes.
the first and the third month, Wednesdays every month.
Yeah, because bi-weekly means twice a week. It'd be bi-monthly. So yes, welcome to our bi-monthly adventure using Mouse Guard's role-playing game, the first edition. Second edition is basically just first edition with FAQ, so feel free to use that too. Based on the awesome comic by David Peterson. So let's just take a moment and introduce our characters. We are going to start. Let's go from. I'm still loading in the Twitch. Whoever's rightmost. Let's run. Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
Rightmost. Well, we're both on the left. I'm on the bottom.
Sure, that works.
Okay.
Damn it, Twitch.
Hi, folks. I'm Derek. You might know me as DMVM Studios. I host a lot of actual plays here on the channel. I'm playing Dukan, Best Weasel. I'm here to remake the Weasel world.
Accurate. All right. I love Dukan, one of my favorite characters.
Thank
We
you.
also have. Oh, I mean overall. Like, I love all your characters. Truly, they're just freaking amazing, and they give me life, guys. I love running this game because I get to see your adorable animals running around saving the day. Also, while blaring Dark Souls music while you fight monsters far greater than you could ever imagine. Speaking of larger things, let's deal with the other side of the spectrum. Ellie.
The small one.
Yes.
My character's name, as I've affectionately called her, is Sayana the Small. Not her legal name in the game, but, you know, that's kind of how she thinks of herself. But she seems to be Sayana the Big, as she has now started her first adventure, which is finding new land, which is always exciting. She also might be finding new love with her obsession, Preston. The swashbuckling mouse who has captured her attention.
Swooned her
Otherwise, she's just out there, learning, living, loving.
Laughing.
Oh no, I'm starting to sound like one of those posters.
Perfect.
I think my sound also cut out. I see you guys laughing, but I don't hear it.
Oh.
Ah, crap. Well, I'll take this moment then to...
oh, no, I can.
Perfect. I'll take this moment then to introduce our missing person for the day. Everyone send out much love to Redemption VA, also known as Red, everyone's favorite primary colors, one of the three. Normally he would be here playing Giles, Giles of Wolfram, who is an incredibly fun Scottish noble mouse. But unfortunately, life has taken Red away from us for the day, so you'll see Red next session. No worries, everything's fine. We're just down a player. But no biggie. We're still here.
Actually, this is exciting because I just realized this is the first time Derek and I have played together, just the two of us, with a DM.
Serious?
It's always either been with a group or him DMing for me. So you have the pleasure of DMing for us both today.
I'm honored. I am privileged to have
And
this
off to
moment.
use it.
Yes.
If I were wearing a hat, I would remove it.
All right, so I'm going to give both of you two, a opportunity to earn, whether that be persona or your alternative points as you were. You can choose to either go with, if this will ever load in properly, feel free to get persona or fate points from this, but give me a breakdown of what happened last session, and each of you will get a fate point or a persona point at your leisure.
I finished my helmet. I now have heavy armor that switches down like the cursed armor from Berserk, which is fucking awesome, and I'm so happy. Let's see.
Sure. Also, all day, yes, you totally can when they come across it. So far, no one is injured. But if it does happen, like injured, sick, what have you, you can totally do that. Sorry, go ahead, Derek.
Oh, you're good. I spoke with my best friend Giotto, and then I launched, you could say, my conspiracy. I went and talked to Sayana, asked her if she thinks she has enough pull to get enough mice to yeah, I don't know why that word escaped me for a moment. Blonde moment, as they say. Yeah, if she could get enough Mies to back me up as the potential ruler of the weasels once we are in our new land and have settled down. I did promise her that things would change, and I did mean it. I don't think that Modi is going to actually stick to her word. She's kind of a bitch. And I kind of like that about her a lot. But also... That's me, Derek. Dukan probably doesn't like that about her because he is best weasel and understands that if you're going to be best weasel, you have to transcend the weasel. You have to be more than weasel. That's what makes you the best weasel. Anyways.
I literally have the image of him wearing a cell hat now. Like, thanks for that.
Yeah, and then I talked to Giles about very much the same thing. He seemed much more likely to back me up, or like he would back me up sooner. Sayana seemed a bit unsure about me, but she can probably talk about that if she feels like it. That's all I got.
Okay, that was great, actually. Mm-hmm. So, by all means, my friend, go ahead, take yourself your choice of fate or persona.
Take a fate.
Go ham.
5 and 5.
So, on the other end, what would you say you have for us, Sienna? What's your breakdown? What do you got?
So, last session, Sayana, some ups and downs. She volunteered to help make breakfast, and much like in real life, since I failed at my baking competition today.
Oh,
Sayana.
Really try not to bring
there it is.
No, it's okay. I thought of the comparison myself. Sayana also failed to make a good breakfast, but that was not her fault, as this cooking competition was not my fault because biased judges. It was not her fault because the food she used turned out to be spoiled, so it was not good. As I compared in the last session, if you've ever seen the episode of Seinfeld where George Costanza's dad has a flashback to him being in the army and cooking for a squadron only to give them food poisoning, and then he gets PTSD and never cooks again. That's kind of how Sayana was feeling. Just like, my men poisoned them.
Poor baby.
No, it wasn't that bad. I believe, if I recall correctly, only Paxton? Is that his name? Saxon? No. Cedric.
Saxon. No, Cedric.
It was Cedric there.
Leader, but you did also name another character, Saxon, who is the matriarch's husband. So it wasn't.
Yes. No, it was Cedric who was there. Cedric, me, and Tom, my protege, all took a nibble of the food before realizing it had gone bad. So we were the only casualties from the poor cooking. But other than that, she imparted a little wisdom on her protege, Tom, and the rest of the day ended up going pretty well. So, I think it's all about what I remember.
That's about right. That works for me. Again, fate or persona, your choice. Also, big thanks as always to everyone who's out there. Shady Sail, nice to see you. Bond, nice to see you. Nick the Sauce, good to see you, pal. Love all of you guys. Thank you all for tuning in. It means a ton. So then, shall we begin? We last left off at the end of the session where, after much voyaging on the open sea, the Mouse Guard, specifically the Mouse Expedition, finally had spotted land. on the horizon. After literally, like, I'm willing to say you guys have been at sea for about 2 weeks. So,
I didn't realize
nothing
it'd been that long.
yeah, actually longer, I think. Longer. Because I usually do my best to try to keep time to be relatively real time to a degree, unless we have like a literal day-to-day session like we've been having lately. But as far as like the oceans going, as far as I'm concerned, you guys have been in sea for weeks. So yeah, there's a reason why they were like, we need to make sure we have a lot of supplies, because there was no land for a long distance, and salt water is not that easy to render into drinking water without a great deal of firewood. So, that said, after much journeying, finally land ho. However, as the various sailor mice across the expedition have been mentioning, across the many different barges that you'll see, there were... Hold on a second. Let's check something. Okay, 1 minute. I'm gonna close this. My apologies. I was hoping I could get that done in the background, but that's just killing my frames. There we go. Despite the fact that they have been sailing for a while, and everyone, as cool as these barges are, everyone's super eager to get off of them. Despite that, you guys aren't making a break for land yet. And a number of sailor mice mentioned that no one's ever landed on this beach before. This is well outside the mouse territories. Y'all are in truly a new place now. And so the protocol for this is that before you guys land, they need to send out scouting parties, because the sort of thing that can hang out on the beach, that'll kill a lot of mice if you're not careful.
I know what my goal for the day is.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I know exactly. You're gonna get a bigger trophy. Eventually, you need a tortoise just for your trophies. Like, it's like, and this is the Dukan tortoise. Why do we call it the Dukan tortoise? And just like, it's just an entire bear, like just
drapes over a tortoise.
On top of it. Yeah. It's like, that's the hardest working tortoise we have in the expedition. So initially there was talk of an immediate landing, but it became very clear that none of the commanders thought that was a good idea. And despite the excitement of everyone getting ready to land the next day, very quickly messengers go across the expedition letting everyone know, no, we're doing a landing first, then we'll do a mass landing together for safety. So, at the moment, I'm willing to say you're looking at about like 6 a.m. the next day. You guys are anchored probably about like a half day's journey out from the, not even that. I'd be willing to say you're probably like quarter day's trip out from shore. It's close enough where like you could see it pretty big in the horizon. Yes.
When does the scouting party leave?
Not yet. They're organizing it.
Can Dukan get on the scouting party?
Oh yes, you will both be on the scouting party.
Dukan is the scouting party.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is actually what is about to happen. I figured I'll just like, yeah.
I figured that's where you were going.
Yeah. Here's the curtain. You're gonna go there anyway. Go behind it. So, yeah. No. I'm willing to say like early in the morning.
Sorry, I got excited.
Runners go across all the different boats and all the different barges, and eventually one of them does get to your ship, both of your respective ships, and you are both flagged for recon duty. This is not expected. Different patrols do different things. Strangely enough, not all of your patrol is. Your patrol technically encompasses you, both the two of you, Cedric, and Giles. Giles technically is still in a patrol, even though he's got his whole people behind him. However, because Giles is actually one of the leaders of a territory and has a large number of troops operating underneath him, they think he's more valuable hanging back and preparing for the mass landing. Yeah.
You can't be on this boat over my dead right corpse!
Yeah.
I imagine he had a fair bit to drink last night, so we just didn't wake him up.
Oh, I can tell you right now, the Wolfram barge is party central. There's two like boppin' barges in this whole place. One of them's not a barge, one of them is Preston's ship, the Invicta, and the other one is the barge of the Wolfram folk, because they are every night up late, drinking and getting on and having a good night. Like,
They're that annoying neighbor where you're like, do they not like work or anything? Like, why am I hearing music at 2 a.m. every night?
they would be, except they invite everyone. So like they are everyone's center of party. Like, if anything, they might be your annoying neighbor, Dukan, because your barge is next to theirs.
Yeah, I think so.
But the weasels
Dukan just banging on the side of the turtle shell. Keep it down.
Banging my head against
Absolutely. Eventually, though, like I will be willing to say that night, especially, the celebrations cut a little bit earlier. I would say Giles is well aware of what his responsibilities are going to be. He actually has a force of fighting men beneath him, and as a result, or I should say, of fighting mice beneath him. And his fighting mice have to be ready the next morning, so he cuts the horseplay at about 10 p.m. No one's getting triple drinks that night. Even Preston and his Invicta crew like settle down pretty early too. So this morning you're feeling surprisingly refreshed, Dukan, because no late night partying. Not that they haven't invited weasels, and in fact they have some pretty sick grog. But yeah, no. I'll leave it in both your hands. How would you two wake up? Bearing in mind it would be like you'd be getting that summons probably at about 6 a.m. Whatever the equivalent time would be for the Mouse Guard.
My eyes like snap open as soon as my body clock is like, it's 6 a.m. I'm just like, 6 a.m. Grab my halberd and I'm out the door.
You're the anime girl with toast in her mouth. Yeah. 100% Dukan. I love that.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Absolutely. I would say like you're probably woke like the second you come out. You can see like leaning on the outside of the little hovel that you sleep in, your little tunnel on the back of your tortoise, on the back of Sedney, as we have named her, is Jado, who is about to knock, and you just sort of like slink out immediately, go like full height.
I grab him at the fucking arm, like with his extended arm to like knock. I just grab him at the elbow with mine. I'm like, 6 a.m. Jado, time to go.
He's just like, oh, and just like immediately goes with you. He was about to say, so, good news, you've been selected for the recon group. I think you know that already. He just like gets pulled
when he says that, I actually like stop for a second and I was like, was there potential for Dukan to not have gone?
Honestly, they were probably going to bring at least one weasel, and you are the best arms weasel, short of... and he points behind him, and again, like, deep, extreme snoring coming from the back of Sedney as Modi the Red continues to doze. But Modi doesn't really work well in these sort of situations, so it was probably going to be you, but there was always a small chance.
I kind of glare at Modi's den for a moment before looking back at him, and my expression softens and I say, we kill something big. And just nod at him. Give him the eyes. That's my goal for the session. Hunt a great beast.
Hunt a great beast. That sounds like a great one. Write that down.
Hell yeah.
I want to see that. Yep.
Hunt a great something beast. Like that.
Okay. Speaking of, we're gonna zoom over to Sienna. So, Sienna, you I figure at this point, it's 6 a.m. Do you think your character would have been up by now?
I've probably been up for about an hour already, having grown up and worked in my parents' bakery. You gotta get up early to make sure those loaves of bread are ready first thing in the morning when other people are getting up. So...
Absolutely.
Unlike Natalie, Sayana is an early riser.
Gotta get up and make the biscuits.
Early riser. A bit of a baking pun, unintentional baking pun.
That's funny, I didn't even catch that.
I love that. That's very fair. And the Mouse Guard has trained you as well, like, in addition to your already wake up and get to it kind of attitude, like, Mouse Guard is drilled in your head, make sure you're awake. A lot of things happen in the morning. So, I would say like about around 6. You would see a small runner wearing a little blue cloth wrapped around their armband come running across a gangplank. And you can see they're bearing on their back this sack, which looks like it's made out of some kind of like vellum, or like, which is basically like an oil parchment, kind of, to keep things dry. This comes like running across, and this is one of the male mice. Like, this is one of the post mice. This isn't the post mouse. You've seen the post mouse. This is not the post mouse. This is one of the apprentices. And just runs over and goes, I have a summons to a what's that word? And he like turns it towards another mouse nearby, and the mouse just like squints and goes, I believe the word's moot. Yes, I have a summons to a moot for Sienna the Small of the patrol of Cedric of Spruce Tuck, effective immediately. And just like immediately like rolls up the thing, just sort of like stands there awaiting an order. Cedric just kind of like looks at you and looks at him.
Oh.
Well done. Thank you. And just mouse just like, it just like zooms off again to head towards another boat. Seemingly pleased with the accomplishment that he just did. He actually finished reading it. So Cedric turns to face you, and I figure like it's probably eating or cooking. So if you want to make another cooking roll and see how he did today.
Hopefully better.
Better pizza. Papa Sayana.
Yeah. Mama Sayana. I
Mama
love that.
Sayana. Mama Sayana voodoo burgers, dude.
That's
a
good.
last podcast reference.
Baker or cooking?
Your call. It's up to you to decide what you cooked.
Oh, I don't have cook. Let's do baker.
Okay.
I thought I had
Biscuits and
something
gravy.
for cook.
Oh, yeah.
You don't like biscuits and gravy. What are you
No,
talking
but
about?
everybody else does, so I figure it's a good one to call out.
Because they're good, and you're the weird one for not liking
I
them.
like my biscuits flaky and buttery, okay?
I'm with that. I'm down with that.
I'll eat like a dozen of those.
Okay. Got a 6 and a 2.
Nice. That's solid. That's a success. So you mark that down as a success for Baker. So this morning you sort of had to make do with the supplies that were available. Thankfully, they weren't spoiled. Every single day, every tortoise gets a set of rations, and the rations are designed to basically carry you through it. And the usual is flour, fresh water, grains occasionally, some dried berries, nuts, and occasionally like dried meat. Today's dried meat is dried cricket hide, which is actually pretty nutritious for you guys. And as far as the weasels go, yeah, the weasels get actual dried like meat. You guys have probably been subsisting on eel for a while.
Yeah, we're probably out of that though.
So I have flour, water, and cricket, kind of the main ingredients.
Pretty much.
So Sayana's gonna get a little creative, and she's going to make a type of kind of like a flapjack with the flour and water, and then she'll use some of the extra flour to fry up the cricket legs, and she's gonna do a little play on chicken and waffle, which don't exist in this world, but a little sweet, little savory. She probably melts
Cricket
a
and
little
waffles.
sugar to make a syrup.
There actually
Into the water.
There actually is
Oh, there's
honey as one of
honey.
the other provisions
so
you get as
then
well. Yeah,
She
you
will
could
drizzle
probably
some
trade-
honey on the flapjack then, and then she'll kind of have the fried cricket leg laid on the side of the pancake, the flapjack.
This actually makes me hungry for pet.
I'm starving. We haven't had dinner yet.
Yeah, I know. Same.
Why are you doing this to us, Natalie?
I will definitely say they are salivating as much as I am salivating at the thought of chicken and waffles right now. So, like, definitely, like, your tortoise and your immediate, like, crewmates are all tucking in quite contentedly to this delicious meal. You definitely feel like everyone has utterly forgotten what happened the last time. It's in the past. We are here now in crickets and waffles. And so Cedric, with like a cricket drumstick in his hand, sort of turns to you and just goes, "So then, I imagine you're going to be going on that recon mission. Do be careful, all right? I'm sure you're capable, but you want to make sure you don't give yourselves away. It can be dangerous at the best times on recon, and that's back in the territories. I have no idea what we have out here."
Sion is riding the high of her success with breakfast, so she's feeling pretty confident, kind of nudges him playfully in the side and goes, "Don't you go worrying about me, Cedric. I'll be fine."
Just so. I'm sure you will be. And thank you for delicious breakfast, by the way. And he just like solid crunch action, like one like a perfect bite radius out of the leg.
When you Tom is nearby.
Oh, he
go
is.
ahead.
Yeah, absolutely is. Go ahead.
Sayana just kind of turns and mutters to him, "See, this is the difference between good and bad ingredients."
I think that Thom just kind of like gives you a nod and just like he's mouth like he's got cheeks stuffed with like flapjack right now.
I love it.
So like he
Eat
is
up
literal
my little man.
Yeah.
Sayana definitely sees him as like a little brother that she's taken under her wing at this point. She's just like, "I will protect you at all costs while also teaching you everything I know because I want you to be the best."
Oh, precious. So a little time goes by, and eventually, the time for your moot is like, honestly, the time for your moot is like right now. So like, I imagine, grab your food or what have you, whatever you might need. You're probably going to be summoned directly from this to your task.
I will probably pack some extra for the trip.
It's very fair. Cedric also would let you know you're probably going to need your weapons as well.
Oh, of course.
Your armor. This is literally an excursion into hostile territory. And hostile territory for mice is literally everything bigger than a mouse, which is everything, pretty much. So, I would say at this point is when you guys meet up in the... I would be willing to say the moot is not being held on a barge. Instead, the moot is actually being held on the Invicta at the moment. Okay. Which is the capital, I guess the flagship of this expedition of a sort. So the Invicta at the moment currently is flying an extra flag. Normally they don't fly too many flags, as you can see from the Invicta's design. The sails are kind of equivalent to flags here. But they actually have raised a halberd and lashed it to the uppermost deck, the actual like driver's deck. And on that you can see like the fluttering symbol of like the geometric symbol of a mouse, and with like a blue, what looks like robe or like fur beneath them. And it's clearly the mark of the expedition's leader, who is, I guess, at the moment on board. So Gwendolyn of Lockhaven is currently standing on the uppermost deck of the ship by her flag, with her husband, Saxon of Flintrust, standing next to her, looking even more belligerent than usual. And the weasel as well. I'm going to send you guys these, not the weasel, but the hedgehog. Send you guys this art very quickly so we can all see what I'm talking about. And also, you've got, this will ever properly load in, Raphael the Red on deck as well, along with Preston in the very front of this little gaggle. All sort of standing there talking quietly as they see both of you two approach, I'm assuming from different sides. Or at least like at slightly different times. Which of you two arrives first? I leave that in your hands.
Probably me, I wasn't cooking.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was probably finishing packing up my things before I get there.
I just bolted straight in that direction.
It's 6 o'clock.
Well, thank you very much, Neris, for that hydrate, posture, and stretch. It is the open ocean. It's salt water. We need to hydrate. So, I would say that as you arrive on board the Invicta, I would say, Jakan, the reception to you is as usual, somewhat prickly. It's not like they are like overtly hostile to you, but there's always kind of like a, oh, weasel on deck. And you find yourself almost always like being followed by one or two of the naval officers on board the Invicta. Like, it just seems like it's kind of protocol for weasels on this ship, which, again, considering the amount of animosity between mice and weasels as a general rule of thumb, not surprising. Even a couple of weeks of working together still isn't enough to bridge some gaps. But Jado being with you seems to lend some credibility to your presence in addition to your prior actions in service to the caravan. So you can tell they're getting, it's a little bit more of like a formality now than it is like it was the first time you got on board the Invicta, which was with dudes pointing guns at you the whole time.
Yeah. As is tradition.
Yeah, exactly. So at this point, they don't even have their weapons pointed at you anymore. Their halberds are kind of like vertical as they sort of walk you through. It almost feels a little bit like an honor guard, but a little less honor, a little more guard, as it were. Eventually, they would see you up to the uppermost level, where you can see the arranged motley group of commanders that is the expedition's heart. And I'm not sure, have you ever had a chance to meet Preston before?
We saw each other in passing. I don't know if we actually spoke, though.
That's fair. Okay. So Gwendolyn slowly turns towards you, halberd in hand, and she sees your long, like, your noodly frame comes into view long before your tiny legs do. It's almost like a comic scene of just like, there's the head, and there's the legs, eventually.
And I'm waddling like this the whole way.
Yeah. Gwendolyn, however, locks eyes with you in that way that you just feel like this is a mouse who is probably your equal in combat. That is rare to see. And she's an old lady, and she'd still probably be able to, like, give you a good run for your money if you were to go ape on her.
Human age-wise, about how old is Gwendolyn?
Gwendolyn is a human approximate, and mice use approximately the same years, so it's not, we don't have to worry too much about it. But for Gwendolyn, she is about 70-something winters old. Yeah,
I was imagining her in her 30s, maybe 40s.
Nah, she's old. She was already well into her 30s by the, like, I think she was in her 30s when everything happened in the original Mouse Guard books. And that was in the winter of 1152. It's been 20 years. So she's in her 50s, 60s now. Actually, it's been almost 30 years. So she's in her,
probably
like...
At least 60s, it sounds like.
Yeah, she's in her 60s. So...
Okay. Badass mouse lady, keeping it strong.
Oh, yeah. Her and Saxon are grayer than their portraits are. That's them in their heyday, but...
Oh, okay.
Still,
that's probably why I'm picturing them younger.
Yeah, that's art from the original books. Again, because, like, seriously, I can't not use David Peterson's art. It's beautiful. Oh. But the two of them have a little more gray around the edges of their fur. And so she locks eyes with you, Jakan, as you walk up. Just says, "Oh, yes, one of the weasels. Welcome, by all means. Please, have a seat." And she gestures towards, like, a stump, which is clearly mouse-sized to sit on, but, you know, you can sort of, like, perch yourself awkwardly on it if you want.
It's like sitting in one of those toddler chairs at a preschool.
Exactly. And a couple minutes later, I'd imagine that you arrive as well, Sienna.
Yes.
There is no armed guard for you. They immediately recognize you and go, "Oh, hey, Sienna!" And they just, like, step aside and let you on board. You've met the crew enough times. Yeah.
Like, hey, Bob, how's the wife?
Yeah, exactly. Like, one of them's like, "I still need to get you back for the last time you got me in cards." Like, they're all... they're just ribbing you.
Oh, you forget, or I'm gonna start charging you interest.
And you can see he just sort of, like, rolls his eyes, but, like, everyone's having a good time with you here. Once you arrive on the top, again, this time, Gwendolyn, eyes locked onto you, and just says, "Ah, excellent. The patrol mouse from Cedric's group. By all means, please have a seat." And she gestures towards the a stump to the immediate right of Dukan. Which, Dukan, how are you managing this feat of fuzzy engineering?
I'm probably just looking at the stump and then like looking up at mouse and then back at the stump. Like, was that an order or?
It's clearly like an offer. You could stand if you want, but that's probably the only chair you're getting.
Yeah, I just stand.
Okay.
Kind of in the
Jono,
back, as to not block people's view.
that's fair. The good news is like it's a pretty open top on the top of the Invicta. It's like literally an open air environment, so at least you can stretch. You don't have to worry about hitting your head or anything. You're not inside. Jono like sort of awkwardly positions himself to sit on the stump, and he's kind of sitting on it the way like, again, toddler chair kind of. But it's a little bit better size for him. Jono's a big hedgehog, but even then, hedgehogs are still like a head shorter than most weasels, like a third shorter. So it's not nearly as awkward for him to just awkwardly kind of sit on it and lean mostly on his fire pike. And so once you all take your seats, Gwendolyn stands up and sort of just like snaps her fingers, and an equerry nearby wearing her colors runs over and presents her with a map. She then takes and unfurls and lays down in front of them, in front of all of you, on a long, wider stump, which, Sienna, you would recognize this as the stump that normally serves as the navigator's table, a floor below on the Invicta. Apparently someone felt like moving the whole thing, which must have taken like 4 to 5 mice to do, onto this upper layer just for this meeting. And also deprive the Invicta of a navigational table for the moment. But also you can
Yana feels a little important.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. It's like, I already knew that I was the bee's knees, but this kind of solidifies it.
This is important.
I really am raising in the ranks, aren't I?
Absolutely. Because the next thing Gwendolyn says is, what I'm about to discuss with you doesn't leave this table, except for your immediate patrol leaders, as she points towards specifically you, Sienna, and also to Dukan says, and Modi is aware of this already. But everyone else, not a soul. And she pauses and then looks, and you can see in the distance, like, all the mice on board one of the barges, the Wolfram barge. And you can see there's, like, some, I'd say about, like, 20 mice, 10 of which are all in kilts, wielding great swords, going through motions. And it's literally like a scene out of an old kung fu movie, where they're all practicing at the same time. And you can hear, in the distance, what has to be Giles's voice carrying over the surf, shouting vaguely Scottish insults to make sure they're doing their jobs. She goes, I'll brief Giles and the other patrol leaders myself at a further time. The moment, this, and she unfurls this large map on the table, is the beginning of our knowledge of this new land. And you can see it's not empty. The map in front of you is loose, it's very rough, but there is something there. The mouse territories came from somewhere. Historically, they were settled by other mouse settlers from another long-lost place. For the most part, we don't talk about that because it's so far in our past, there's no point really engaging in it. However, we are, all of us, settlers in a new realm. It's just been many, many, many hundreds of summers since it happened. However, thanks to the help of some of our archivists, and she nods to what looks like a gentle mouse in like a relatively close, like pulled black cloak with a pair of little tiny silver, like, I don't want to say spectacles, but like it's like a pince nez, where it doesn't have the arms, just has like the chain and a vest, sort of like a little bit stuffed up, sort of like nods. Thanks to our archivists, we've been able to find some of our most ancient records, dating all the way back to the time of the Sylvan and Falkland conflict, which I'm not going to get into the details of unless we need to. And she looks around the room.
I just kind of like wave my hand forward like, yes, fox mice, hawks mice, lots of dead mice. We know the story.
Good then. We can continue onward. We believe that the Mouse territories were settled first by the people who left that place. And that is our destination, a return to this once long abandoned location. The likelihood of it still being occupied is very low. After all, the amount of predators in the area was relatively high. And while the fox disappeared, the hawk was slain, and as we understand it, few predators bothered the mice in their migration. We are hoping that cultural memory has left a bit of a crater here, so that we can move back into. It would honestly be just as easy as to establish a new site, so if the old settlement isn't viable, if the fox's den and the hawk's den are no longer an option, we build a new site elsewhere. But those are our starting locations. Unfortunately, these records are ancient, in case you couldn't notice that, and she gestures to the many burn and rot marks across the paper, which has made some parts of the some cases almost as wide as a mouse's hand, completely illegible. So we're working off of very old information, which is why we're starting from scratch. And another mouse comes over with a transparent layer of vellum parchment and places it over the top of the map, takes out a quill and begins to sketch the terrain lines of the actual shore. We can confirm, at least along this part of the map, the shore is identical, or identical enough. No major events have occurred to cause serious erosion, but that doesn't mean we know what lives there, which is what you're going to be doing, both you, Tukan, you, Sienna, as well as also we're bringing ourselves one other mouse, if they could get themselves here on time. And she turns to Sax and says, I thought you sent runners out. And Saxon goes, I sent runners out. I just don't know where the little jerk is. And as if on cue, a couple seconds later, if I can find the right art, it's not that one. It's one day it's going to pop up again. I'm actually, did I lose the art? There's no way.
I hope not.
I certainly hope not either. Here we go. Found it. Yes. As if clockwork, you can hear a stumbling sound coming from the staircase, and Toffrin comes waddling up the stairs. That'll be Sienna's adversary from earlier. Wearing his orange cloak and carrying a mace over his shoulder. And you can see he's still sticky with honey. So he just sort of comes up. Sorry.
As he always is, the sticky bastard.
Yeah. Sorry, I had duty with the apiarist. I came as fast as I could. Just very gross in there. And he goes and looks for a chair and goes, where's mine? She goes, I gave your chair to the weasel. You were late.
While this is going on, can it be that Sayana is positioned next to us?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. She is sitting next to you.
Okay, so Sayana,
and I am absolutely giggling into my paws, trying to stifle my laughter because I'm quite pleased that he has to stand.
You can hear this hideous, horrendous gurgling sound that's erupting from my stomach. And then I look down. To me, it's just hunger noises, but to you, it probably sounds absolutely atrocious. Some deep epigenetic memory of oh god, am I about to die? Or some shit. But I just look down at you and I does this one have food?
Toffrin, seeing you...
No, I was talking about Sayana. What,
oh, I know.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
He can see you.
Okay,
and
yeah, that's where I am massive.
And he can hear that stomach rumbling.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You're big. Immediately his eyes get big as he looks up and just leans over towards Saxon and goes, I wasn't aware there was going to be weasels here. And Saxon just goes, grow a pair and sit down, Toffrin. Goodness, you embarrass me. And Toffrin just kind of fine, and just goes and looks for the stool that your character is, I imagine, standing over.
Yeah.
Looks between you and the stool and just makes a fuck it gesture and sits down where they are on their haunches. Gwendolyn says, all right, now that we've established that everyone's here, Toffrin, I'm just going to summarize for you. New land, old charts. You might have ideas where we're going. And Toffrin immediately she goes, I had no questions yet. We're catching up. You get that later. We're going to need a recon party to arrive, which is going to be you, Dukan, and Sienna. To which Toffrin at first raises a hand in protest to the weasel, and sees you and raises a hand to protest even further. And sort of gives up and just drops his hands.
I'm just as mad about it as he is. I wanted Giotto to be with us. I'm pouting now. I was about to start elbowing Sayana and asking for flapjacks, and then as soon as I heard this, I just got deflated and went.
Sayana would also prefer Giotto, but Natalie prefers Toffrin because I haven't seen him in a while, so this should be fun.
I'm scowling at the little bee bastard.
Giotto, almost as if on cue, next to you, Dukan just slowly raises one of his fingers and just says, would it not make more sense to have me escort them? You have a mouse, you have a weasel. I would be an excellent third. And Saxon says, yes, you would be. You're also the only one possessed of a weapon that can reach out well over approximately a kilometer if well aimed with a scope. Which is why you're going to be staying back on the escort barge. The small landing craft that you'll be accompanying with will be fitting your weapon with a scope. And we'll have a mouse there to serve as your cartographer and your wind keeper. If they need the ability to be shooting anything on the ground, they have a whistle they'll blow. You'll shoot from where you are, towards the whistle. Is that clear? And Giotto just looks down at his fire pike. Just a big thing. Mm-hmm. It's massive. It's not nearly as big as the fire blade that's carried by Raphael, who's also currently sitting here watching this, undergo. But it's still big. Just goes, it's fair. All right. I'll watch from the waterline. If my liege wills it, and he turns to look to Raphael, and Raphael says, I insist on it. Not going to be losing any of my men on that foreign beach. Plenty of mice in this expedition. I don't need to lose my best fighters. Thank you very much. And Giotto just kind of shrugs and does fine, I didn't want to go and venture things anyway. Kind of look.
I kind of give Giotto a hand on the shoulder, and I go,
Giotto, I don't know what a kilometer is, but kill many of them. Yes.
Giotto gives you a look for a second, are you serious? And then pauses and goes, it's fair. You know what? Different cultures, probably different measurement systems. It's fine. Just gives you a pat on the shoulder, that firm kind of soldier's clap on the shoulder, where the thumb comes over to where the collarbone is, and just goes, You too, Dukan. Good hunting.
Yes.
And Gwendolyn just kind of leans back and goes, all right. Now this is the part where I open for questions. And immediately Toffrin goes up. You get to ask those afterward. You showed up late. Anyone else?
How far and how long are we to scout for before reporting back?
That's an excellent question. So, it's about 6 o'clock or so, at least by the timekeeper. So, we're going to have you go for most of the day. However, the second that nightfall comes, I want you off of that shore. You are to observe only from the landing craft. Once you've gotten a chance to see what comes out after dusk, you come back to the ship proper, but I don't want anyone on those sands, at least after night. Is that understood?
Understood.
yes.
Excellent. Any other questions?
So this is the whole party, the three of us?
Yes. Jado will go with you in the landing craft, but he won't get off, as I mentioned. So it will be the three of you. The Mouse Guard moves best at speed and in small groups, and your crew should do nicely. Tofrin, despite his lack of punctuality, is a capable fighter, and appears to be capable of taking orders if the past couple of weeks are any indicator. So, Tofrin, yes, of course. What can I do for you, mistress? She says, you're going to be answering Sienna. She will be your effective patrol leader for this expedition. And Tofrin's face just, like, the color drains out of it, like, oh, you have to be kidding me. I don't joke. Is that understood, Tofrin? Yes, of course. Of course. Matriarch. And she nods to Saxon and Saxon and Gwendolyn in turn, and you can see that Saxon was like, as she said, I don't joke, Saxon was kind of doing like a little cracking knuckles thing behind him. This tiny little rotund mouse, like, audibly cracking his knuckles from across the stage. All right.
Oh, I have one last question.
Oh, yes.
Do you have a map for us, or some rough layout of the land?
Unfortunately not. All we have is the sand dunes, and she sort of gestures to the map ahead of you, and you can see that, like, the cartographer mouse with the quill is basically going as fast as he can on the transparent vellum that's lying over the top of the parchment. And he's basically got, like, the whole of the shoreline down again. Or at least the shoreline you're landing on. He's intentionally leaving the rest of it vague. But beyond the shoreline, you can see there's, like, there's like a layer of trees that go beyond it. And supposedly somewhere back there's a lake. But you can only see that through the transparent layer of parchment. You can't see that on the new map. And she says, we have no maps, although Tofrin has one other purpose going with you, is that Tofrin has been taking up cartography as of late, from a master.
Have you been, Tofrin? Just like you?
What good
She
does
just
a
hates
map
anything he does.
What good does a map do?
Tofrin, like, goes to sort of like, he's gonna say something to you, Sienna, but then he hears you say something to Khan, and like his face flushes like he was gonna say something mean, and then eyes still locked at you, talks towards you, Khan, clearly unable to look you in the eye, but still needing to say this, says, cartography may yet save your life, Weasel. It is an important thing in this place where we've never been before, and it will allow us to know where and when we'll be able to settle and build roads and maps and things of that nature. And yes, I'm capable of contributing to this expedition. It's just been a little hard getting started is all. But I'm decent enough at it.
You think big words make you smart, little mouse.
And I kind of like bend down to where I'm like as close to eye level as my physiology will let me.
Oh, that just gets you a straight up meep from him, and he just like tucks in on himself. He does the hamster face and just sort of like tucks his nose in his hands.
Smart is not all that it takes to survive.
Yes, but it is helpful.
We will see.
And I gotta like write myself up, kind of give him like a, not hard, but like a little forceful pat on the shoulder, like I'm hazing him basically. And
you nearly knock him off his haunches just from the size difference. But as you pull back, like just like audibly breathes out and just like relaxes a little bit. And Gwendolyn looks up to you, Dakan, and just says, and Weasel, bring them back alive.
Yes.
Including Tofrin.
Yes.
Including Tofrin. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Well, with that done, this moot is adjourned. I will call for a further moot for the leadership here. You'll meet me shortly Everyone who's not going on this landing party is to be off of the Invicta in the next 15 minutes by our timekeeper's call. If you're not off, get ready to spend the rest of the day on board the Invicta. Is that understood? And immediately all the mice and the weasels and the hedgehogs, yes, ma'am. And they all just like sort of do a quick little salute, some hand over heart. You can see the hedgehogs sort of just like straighten up and like lightly wrap their polearm weapons on the table. And 15 minutes later, it's only the crew of the Invicta, you folks, Jado, and Toffrin on board the ship heading towards the shore. So I'm going to take a moment and just say we're an hour in. Do you guys need to take a bio break? Or
Yeah, our food's almost here,
Yeah,
so this would be a great opportunity for us to take a quick break.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Don't go anywhere, anybody. We're going to take a quick 5 to 10, and then we will be back with more Malgard. Folks, welcome back. Thank you all so much for your patience and waiting. I am so sorry for that prolonged break there. Our delivery for person was having a hard time finding us. But the good news is eventually he did find us, and I have my sandwich.
Nice.
Thank y'all for
And I got myself some meatballs and, I guess, noodles, technically, would be the proper
But yeah.
thing, so yeah. And also, chat, anyone out there, I'd love to see what your responses are to our little question. If you were a mouse in the mouse guard, my lovely tender paws, what color be your fur? The color of your cloak and your weapon of choice. Hit me up in the chat, the coolest one. I might even include you guys in a future episode of the mouse guard as an NPC.
Oh, hell yeah.
So,
Oh, that'd be awesome.
yeah. So, you know, hit me up with that. All right. Now that we've all taken a moment to sort of rest and have a bite, I'm going to have myself a bite of meatball. Continue. Oh, God. I nearly fell. Okay. Let's go. So then. As we're on, it's about like, it's about 6:45 now. You can see that the boat is getting closer and closer. The Invicta herself, being a mighty warship of sorts, is currently heading towards the shore, bearing, at the moment, the crew, Preston, as well as also Tofrin, Sienna, Tukan, and also Shadow at the moment. And what appears to be a small, almost raft-like boat next to it being towed, that's being sort of, I guess, assembled as the ship is getting closer to land. But you can see it's getting closer to land really quick. This is the first time I think you've all seen the Invicta with her throttle open. And this is with all her water screws going full steam. She is motoring faster than any of the barges you've seen. That boat could easily have left the expedition at any time. It's just stuck around for a while. So,
I think I'm just kind of like trying to keep my head down.
It very much has like a motorboat kind of feel. Like it is moving. This thing is.
It's grooving.
Yeah, it's schmoving. I don't. I wish I could tell you the exact nautical speed it's moving at, but it'd be relative to a mouse, and I don't think I could properly gauge that. Needless to say, this thing is moving at like your standard like motorboat in lake speeds. So pretty quick. Like it's kicking the front of the boat up every time it hits a wave. And so eventually, as you guys get closer, you can see the Invicta's crew has managed to lash up this little tiny barge, really big enough for just like maybe 6 people. And you can see Jado and another mouse with a spyglass and what appears to be a compass and a sextant getting in there as well with him, wearing a blue cloak and a blue wrap around his arm. And Tofrin's sort of like heading towards the boat too. And Preston sort of walks up behind you, Sienna, and just says, "Hey, lass, could I ask you a favor? Very quickly. So, I just want you to do me a favor and keep an eye on the weasel, alright? At least around my crewmate. That one right there?" And he points towards the mouse with the sextant and the little goggles. Kind of a new recruit, and more into the point, a little bit scared of weasels and hedgehogs, but also like the best shot I got, and arguably one of my best navigators. So, like, if you could bring him back in one piece, I'd be mighty obliged.
You said Tofrin said that, or
no, that would be that would be oh my god, Preston. Preston.
Preston. Oh, okay. Oh, absolutely. Not a hair on his fine head will be touched if I have anything to say about it.
You do me a service, lass. And he takes off his hat and sort of like bows a little bit.
Well, then that's my personal mission for today, to make sure that mouse doesn't get hurt.
Okay. ensure the safety of the navigator is your goal for this session. So then, after a couple minutes of getting close enough where you guys can actually see the shore very clearly from here, you're basically the same distance you see like personal craft off the edge of a beach, if you ever been close enough to see that, where it's far enough where if you were trying to swim out to it, it'd probably be a good like 10-15 minute swim, but you know, far enough where you don't have to worry too much about whatever's on land. So the Invicta sort of pulls each of the ropes up and lets you guys board as you would like. Make sure everyone is on board.
Oh yeah.
And after everyone gets settled, they slowly lower you guys into the surf. Immediately, Zukan, this feels better than the big barge, because the whole thing is smaller and in a weird kind of way, as opposed to the large barge, which moves under its own inertia and momentum, in some cases against what seems to be your line of sight on the ocean. This thing is small enough where every wave moves it, and it's actually not throwing off your inner ears so much, so you don't have to worry about taking any, like, getting ill tests at the moment. Yeah. Now, honestly, you've also been on the sea for a bit now, and to say you have your sea legs is probably a lie. You definitely are... You've adapted well enough to it where it's only, like, mild discomfort now. This little thing, actually, this little tiny barge has a propeller screw on it as well, but it's a hand crank. And so...
I'm, like, rocking back and forth on the thing, like,
come on, we gotta go.
all right, give me a moment. And the little mouse at the back sort of, like, looks up at you and Jado and just says, it's not really made for big loads like this, and just grabs the little, like, winch and just... It begins to pull the winch rapidly, and behind you can see the propeller begins to move slowly, then picks up speed, and the little boat goes from standing still to swiftly building inertia. And so very soon you're moving at a pretty good clip. You see this mouse panting in the back, utterly, like, spent, sort of like, Jado, could you please? I'm an advocate. This isn't really my forte. And John's like, yeah, just move over. It literally picks up the mouse and puts him in front of him because it's about as big as a longboat. So it's not particularly wide. Just literally picks him up and puts him in front of him and just leans back. And with one hand, pumps the screw. That's just kind of... All right.
Jado, get me closer to them.
And I point my halberd off the end, like holding onto the end of the longship.
I want to stab them.
Yes, I can do that, no problem. And he just sort of, like, revs it even harder. Clearly, like, you two are a great and terrible influence on each other.
We're driving
he's
something further
absolutely
and further.
motoring this thing. The navigator sort of just, like, turns towards all of you and just goes, all right. So, 1 second. Just gonna have myself a little drink out of my water skin. Give me a moment. And you can see he takes a sip out of what appears to be a leather skin of water, but uncorking it, like wolf snout, you don't need to make the roll. You can smell it. That is way stronger than water. That is some serious schnapps in there. Then he takes a goodly sip of it, and he just goes, all right, so we're going to get you all close enough where you can jump off the long ship, pretty much only ankle deep, hopefully, or like mid-body deep, and swim to the shore. So, once you're there, keep an eye out, and here. And he reaches into his pocket, and he pulls out a mouse-sized whistle. And he looks at you, Dukan.
What am I supposed to do with this?
That's a great point. And he turns towards Toffert and Sienna. Which of you two would like this?
I will take it as I'm in command.
Of course, milady. And he hands it over. can see Toffer next to you, kind of like does this eye roll, like, "Oh, here it goes."
I kind of
Dang
give the
right,
same.
here it goes.
I kind of give the same eye roll. Actually, I'm like, excuse me. Like I like look up for a second and like snap down at this little mouse.
So then,
You heard Lady Gwendolyn.
so right. And he looks between the two of you, like nervously, kind of like, okay. So, if you need fire support from Jado, who I believe has brought a good amount of ammunition to offer fire support, Jado goes, yeah, more or less. He pulls up a sack, and it's like filled with. To you guys, it would be the size of like bowling balls, solid hunks of lead.
Jesus Christ.
And like to us, it's like the size of a 22 rimfire, like BB. Like it's not big, but again, relative
It's
scale.
a cannonball.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's just full of them. He's got to have at least 20 in there, so just in
Take a
case.
Chad.
Yeah. And the mouse just kind of looks at him like, he said an extra clip, not like, fine, whatever. Who knows what they'll find. Once you get to shore, go on there, spend your time, chart as much of the place as you can. We need notes of any wildlife, notes of any potential signs of what might still be settlement, which is unlikely, but possible. Finally, a landing place for the barges. Safe, preferably. Safer you can make it, the better. Because if we end up moving our barges onto beach, birds, crabs, lobster big enough to flip our barges, occasionally sharks, shrimp. Do I need to go on with how many things can eat us? So...
Dukan has played Elden.
No, I'm just kidding.
He fears the giant lobster.
Yar, the land octopus be disgusted this time of year. So, excellent then. Well, good luck. I believe this is where we can stop the propeller, Jado. And Jado's kind of like just been motoring this whole time, still enjoying it. Just goes, right, of course. Just lets it go, and it just the flywheel slows down. The thing comes to a little stop in the shore. It's not too far away. You guys can easily ford from here to the shore. You're gonna be soaked, but you kind of knew what was gonna be in this. So,
Yep. No qualms about it. I just look at Jado and say,
Kill.
and jump.
Jado gives you a nod as you jump over, and sort of holds his hand out to Toffrin and Sienna, and just goes, "Who's next?"
I step forward.
Okay. Yeah, you hit the water. Since you're both in the water, both of you two are going to be making me, I'm going to say health checks. Second you hit that water. I'm going to say, Sienna, you have flash flood-wise. Feel free to add that in this instance.
Sweet. So it's gonna be.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Nice. Damn. All right. Yeah, you both did great. Holy crap. 3 successes at least for everybody. Sienna, you rocking it with a 5. And I need to roll for Toffrin over here. So, and also, I just need to check to see. Ah, yes, good. That's good to see. I was checking to see whether or not something was in fact in here, and it is, only to a degree. So I get to make my choice on that.
Uh-oh.
Also, I might sneeze in a second. If I do, I will duck away. My apologies.
Toffin's
All right,
gonna get
so-
it, folks.
Yeah, here we go. 5d6, please. Actually, better yet, advanced dice roller. Help me out so I don't have to keep opening you. Come on. Here we go. Oh my.
Ooh.
Still success, but barely. Hey Quincy, thank you for lurking. So you can see Toffrin steps out after you two, hits the water and instantly, like, almost halfway goes under. Tofrin's wearing, honestly, like, Sienna, you wear a pretty significant amount of armor. You're not super dense, like, heavily armored, but you wear a lot of cloth. And your shield is definitely not light, neither is your mace. Tofrin, on the other hand, Tofrin's gear starts at, like, leather, and he's otherwise surprisingly well equipped. So, in this instance, it's worked against him. But they come to the surface, sputtering, and clearly you realize, like, oh, he wasn't going to drown, he was just startled by how cold the water was.
I wasn't gonna save him, but I'm just kidding.
I still grab him.
Sayana would probably begrudgingly save him if he was actually drowning.
Yeah.
Seeing him
fair.
waterlogged, I probably like pick him up and like just hold him suspended in the air for a moment or two so all the water starts to like run off of him and then set him on the shore.
He would kind of just like go limp in your hand as you do it, and then just like once he's on the shore, shake himself out, poof up a little bit, and then turn around and just, like slick his fur back. Thank you.
Many things slow you down. Take only what necessary.
Suppose you're right. Thanks, Diamondback. And sort of stands on the shore, shoulder like arms akimbo on his waist, like looking over the expanse of white, soft sand beneath you. Still, it's wet this close to the water, but it also seems like it's naturally moist, like a naturally moist beach. It's still not the heat of day yet, so the tide likely has come back out, and the sun has yet to cook off all the excess water. So, from what you can tell, you know what? No. Make me a scout roll, peeps. Or hunter, whichever one works for you. If you have... I'm trying to see if there's anything either you two would have wise that would be relevant. I don't see anything yet that would be relevant. No. Okay. Alright. So let's see. Move this out of the way.
Damn it, I wanted to fail that hunter roll because then it would have put me at 7.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting close, buddy. You get another pass. Sienna, you do have a fail there.
Yeah.
So... Wait, you have a scout of 3. Why did you only roll 1 die?
It shows me I have Scout 1.
Oh, ignore me. I was looking at Dukan's thing. I was like, wait, what? No.
Okay.
I could spend fate until I fail. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna do that.
I want to suck at this.
I just want the XP in the fail slot, so I get that level 7.
That's a fair mood. That's a huge mood. That's a Call of Cthulhu level mood.
Or excuse me, level 6, not level 7. I'm bad at math. I forget where
Like, I
numbers go
just
sometimes.
want to fail. Why can't I do it? Why can't I do anything right or wrong in this instance? Okay. And then we're going to have our buddy here reroll. Wow. Tofrin's feast and famine here. There's not much in between.
Yep.
But it keeps delivering him to 1 success. So, the most frenetic success I've ever seen. So, I'm going to say that Dukan and Tofrin both immediately notice, like, Tofrin's first thing when he looks around, he just goes, well, I can already see a couple holes on the beach. He points towards, like, some clearly, like, big mouse-sized holes. Willing to bet those are probably small, tiny crabs. Not quite the big ones, but where there's little ones, there can be big ones.
Do you
Dukan,
think they taste good?
I don't want to find out.
I would love to find out.
You, on the other hand, Dukan, you notice something else. More than just the little, like, burrows. You see in the sand, which is still wet, many, like, dents in the wet sand. The only thing those could be, because it almost looks like a shovel, like a spade, dug up little chunks of earth, but in rows. In, like, weird, slightly skittered rows, 3 wide. Only a little offset each other. And it takes you just a moment to realize, because you haven't really hunted crab before. Like where your part of the Dark Heather was is pretty far from the water.
Yeah.
So you've probably only hunted crab occasionally or heard tell of it. But you realize these 3 tracks, these 3 rows of like divots are tracks for a very large crab. Moving sideways. As big as you, if not bigger.
Stop.
If I get low and start like measuring them. And I'm like actually being kind of methodical. I like use my the haft of my halberd, like see how far it goes in. And I do that in a couple places, and like,
we are dealing with something very large.
Very large for you or for us?
For you.
Yes, the holes and the divots and the large piece. We all noticed that. Yes, we all noticed that.
At the same time, equally.
You know, it's funny that you brought that up because I was actually about to do that myself. But you know, I'm glad that you said it.
So at this point, Derek, if you have slightly more tense music, probably a good idea to put it on.
Okay.
Not full combat, but tense or dire. So at this point, in the distance, you can see, first off, there are clouds here and there, sort of like scattered about. So it's a little bit of an overcast day. It means the lighting conditions are actually pretty ideal. This close to the surf, it gets a little foggy in the distance, but at least there's no glare off the ocean, no glare off the sand. What it does mean, though, is that you can see at great distance the threats you face. Good news, no immediately evident threats, but signs of them start abounding. A small group of sandpipers come out from the far end of the beach. At the end of the beach is kind of like where there's a large amount of overgrown grass. This isn't like a beach like you and I are used to, where humans traverse a great deal of it and thus make a large sandy bar. Instead, there's scrub brush, almost all the way up to the edge of the ocean, only where the water pulls at the surf and the sand. It prevents the growth of sandgrass as that happens. So you're standing on the very tiny sandbar before a slightly larger rolling field of sandgrass. And in the distance, you can see coming out of the sandgrass little teams of sandpipers. Sandpipers are adorable little birds, for those of you who don't live on the ocean. They're, like, tiny. We're talking really tiny. About as big as a field mouse, actually. They are super quick. They scuttle about on their tiny little feet, moving so quickly their feet almost appear to disappear. Little sharp noses. Little tiny beaks. And they usually go up, and they'll dip their little beaks in and grab whatever wriggling things are out in the surf. However, sandpipers don't just eat that. Sandpipers eat the leavings of bigger predators. So immediately, presence of sandpipers, the large crab tracks, which I'm also going to say, no, I'm looking at your success level again. I'm not going to say it. Okay. The crabs, sandpipers, and whatever else might exist here. This is beach biome. So, I'm not sure either of you two are particularly familiar with this terrain. Both made me hunter and scout roles. So I'm going to volunteer to Khan. You have been trained on how to deal with a beach. You just haven't had to fight on one yet.
Okay.
So, you're aware of the sort of thing that will live here. And he mentioned it before in passing, crabs, lobster. Occasionally other animals. Those other animals can include gulls, which to a mouse and a weasel not so much of a threat. To a mouse, definitely a threat. Mm-hmm. But also, the possibility of gators, as well as also crocodiles, is very real.
Oh, fuck.
Not to mention large fish.
Those are scary as a human.
So, there's also plenty of other things that can live in the brush. Small animals, to us small animals, to you guys, massive. and even big animals to humans. Occasionally, even boars can exist on a beach. Some will hang out on beaches in the area around the scrub, which is what you're looking at. So, needless to say, caution is warranted here. And this is obviously not a landing zone. There's not enough space to park the barges, and even if there was, it's right up against the scrub, and shit can come out of the scrub. So let's not even talk about snakes. We know that's in there, too.
Dukan goes first.
By all means.
Yes, absolutely. As Toffrin goes behind and pulls out the scroll that he's kept in a watertight thing of vellum and begins to scrawl with his quill very quickly, like you can see him making like a very rough map of where you guys are standing. And you can see in like the bottom corner, he draws like a little shape of a crab and little tiny sandpipers as well. So,
So cute.
how quick are you going about this, Chief, or are you going slow and methodical?
I'm going slow and methodical. I'm
Okay.
looking for tracks. I'm looking for anything that looks like it could be an ambush, you know, like a fucking trapdoor spider or some shit. I'm looking for a god, which would be a boar in this circumstance. You know, looking for anything that might be bad news coming our way.
Okay. So if that's the case, then, Dukan, you're going to make me a hunter roll. Sienna, how are you approaching this?
I think I am kind of focused more on the land itself.
Okay.
You know, kind of looking for areas that would be of strategic benefit should we need to run, hide, or stay and fight. So I'm
Okay.
thinking maybe rocky terrain could help me with that.
Rocky terrain-wise, definitely... Let's see. That'll come into play a little bit further. This isn't quite rocky terrain yet. However, considering the fact that you have flash flood-wise, and a beach is basically just a flash flood zone every night, I'm willing to give it to you. There's similar hazards.
Okay.
So you're going to make me a... I'm just trying to make sure that this roll is going to make sense before I commit you to it. I'm going to say make me a... I think survivalist would be the role for this in particular. I think survivalist would be fair. I'd say the survival... go with scout, actually. Scout, and I'll let you use flash flood-wise.
Okay.
And I can see to Khan's roll. Very nice, very nice.
Mans can't
Okay.
fail.
Yeah, man. You're not going to want to fail when it gets to a certain point, I can tell you that.
Yep.
That's when you're going to fail. So don't worry, you'll get there.
Yep.
That's how it goes. It's roll 20. She punishes you. Ooh, Sienna. Thankfully,
Yeah.
thank God for
Just
that.
barely passed there.
Yeah, thank God you have that flash floodwise. So, in this instance, Sienna, you managed to stay pretty quiet and low. Thankfully, you've been in places that flood frequently. You at least are aware of how to walk in that terrain and maintain a degree of silence. So even though the sand is so wet it like smacks, you know how to put your feet under the sand as you walk. You're sliding under that wet layer. You're not putting your foot on top and leaving a suction behind it. You're pushing through it. You manage to move quietly. Toffrin, again, my boyo. My dice roller, my friend, would you be so kind? There we go. Okay. Toffrin is a little more preoccupied with the map making. He's still trying to be quiet, but clearly, like, his mind is on this higher task he's been given by the matriarch. He sort of follows in your footsteps, but there's still like a little like of like his feet leaving like sucking sounds as he walks through the mud. Occasionally like stumbling over grass, stuff like that. He's not super quiet. He's not super loud either, but he's not nearly as stealthy as you. Khan, on the other hand, my man, you are shadow in the night.
My element.
Pretty much. You stalk further in, and you manage to get through the brush. Now, as where you're at, like, this beach brush is pretty dense. And if anyone's ever been to a beach that doesn't have, like, a highly curated surf layer, you know what I'm talking about. It's really deep. It's basically just saw palmettos or, like, palm as far as you can see. If you live in a desert, not too far off of a desert path, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Replace cactus with palm. You got the idea. And as you sort of stalk your way through here, what is your role? You're starting to notice signs of something else here, too. There's something smaller here. You're unfamiliar with what it could be. It like, it's on the tip of your brain. You just can't quite get it. You don't know why. Like, it seems you should know this. Like, it's obvious. You've encountered this before. But there is something else here. It's not huge, though. It's small, but potentially dangerous. That's really all you can think of. Like, your brain keeps going, like, what are those tracks? Like, because you're not seeing footprints. You're seeing signs of passage. It's not big, so it's not bending over large grass stalks. Like, you can see where the crab is. And you're very quickly realizing it's not just one crab. There are multiple. There are, in fact, many crabs. And they're bending over a lot of the brush on the top. But this is only bending over, like, the tiny brush. So roughly, like, in your ballpark or smaller. So, I mean, whatever it is, it's enough of a traversal where you can see, like, almost the beginnings of paths down here. Eventually, as you all get deeper in, Tukan, you come across sort of a fork, where you get to the edge of where the grass sort of goes from sandy terrain to actual, like, in this case, more of a cud kind of area. It's a little bit more muddy. There's clover beneath your feet. You can start feeling the beginnings of, like, a root structure, a mycelial network. You can stand on like grass. Ahead of you lies a forest, largely pine, a little bit of oak. You can smell the smell of salt water nearby, and not just off the beach from behind you. Your wolf snout's pretty sharp. You can smell it too. For you, your left. That would be the west of the party, since you're basically going northward. So, you're at a crossroads. What do you do?
I'm gonna put 2 and 2. I'm gonna roll to see if.
Thank you, Neris.
I'm gonna roll to see if Dukan can put 2 and 2 together. That whatever creature it is that's has wandered off from the beach. Nature roll. Jesus, I'm on fire tonight.
Holy cannoli, my dude. Passes. You're not going to need to worry about that fail. You're going to just pass all the way to success again. Okay, yeah, no. Holy crow. So, despite the 1 traitor in your dice pool, it's still 3 successes, which is exactly what you needed. You recognize it now. The big things, obviously crab. You can tell there is somewhere on this beach a small group of wild pigs. However, the small things, that's mice. That is 100% mice. Field mice, approximately the same size as the mice you came here with. Or something like field mice. They're in the same family. So, sapient, small, clearly organized, because they're not leaving trails. They're only leaving, or I should say, they're not leaving, like, footprints. They're only leaving trails where they pass. So, they're not revealing numbers, and they're very clearly attempting not to be found, which makes sense. Again, field mice don't like big predators, so they're probably just as afraid of those things as you guys are. But that means they travel here well enough to know that, and yet still have left an impact. So that's up to you to disseminate.
I stop Topher?
Tofrin, yeah.
Tofrin.
By the way, those go westward. The mice tracks.
I stop Tofrin and I say,
Others like you here.
he raises a little mousy brow at that and kind of looks at you and then looks at Sienna and just says, I technically it was always possible. I hear field mice are kind of everywhere. Supposedly some outside the territories, but we don't really have any contact. So there's other mice here then?
I nod.
Yes.
He immediately he turns to you, Sienna, and just goes, I have no idea how to handle that. I'm just here to chart the map. I'm not here to make contact. Do you know what we're supposed to do?
Well, suppose should we come across these other mice, we'll try and speak with them peacefully.
May not take kindly to Dukan.
That is the bigger problem. Whether we are with you or not, surely once they see you, they will take you
Kind
as a
of
threat.
gesture to the like mouse skulls on my belt.
You are kind of a walking war crime as far as mice are concerned, yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me, Weasel, are you able to tell if they were here recently? These tracks fresh?
Can I still like smell their scent? Scent decays after like 30 minutes typically.
Well, right, but wolf's now slightly mythological setting. Like I'm willing to give you some slightly bent reality here.
Right.
Your roll was also incredibly high, and these mice have been recent. So, in this case, I'm willing to say they've been here within, say, 2 hours, because of the fact that the ground is so saturated with moisture. It's sort of kept the scent a little more. So,
Recently, yes.
Why within the last 2 hours? Yeah. Well, okay then. So we, looking at the sky, and he looks up and he holds his hand out, and you can see he does this thing where you have, like, one little thumb, and then, like, the rest of his little mouse paw fingers, like, sort of spray out in his paw, as he's trying to measure, like, how many fingers from where,
Hoffren,
like, we are.
you
towards
can barely count. It's 7:15.
He turns towards you and just goes, I'm trying here, okay?
She
We should
doesn't
probably-
like you. I'm not so sure I like you either. So, don't be useless. Time of day, moving back to their home. They saw us. They're going back to tell them to expect us. They might even send out a hunting party. Things just got very...
And there's this kind of like guttural, like, not on purpose, but still like growl coming from the back of his throat.
interesting.
Oh, that would make sense, logically. In that case, should we wait for them to return, or meet them on their way back here?
I personally vote for not being on the beach of death, but as much as I really don't want to be here, and this grass gives me the willies, we do still have to find a landing place for the fleet.
Yes.
True.
Job is more. If they show up, deal with them then. Sharp watch.
Let us do the talking to start, at least, Dukan. I'm not sure they will be quite keen on negotiating with a weasel straight off the bat.
What makes you so sure they will even know your tongue?
I don't say anything
If they
else
don't-
after that. I just like start walking off.
So,
These men are trying my patience.
so north or west, my friend?
Oh,
Your
north. Along the
Okay.
beach. Just to, again, try to find a landing spot.
Okay, that'd be more westward then.
Oh, well, shit.
So,
Okay.
no, it's all right. Like I said, you're basically going north onto the beach from the surf. So, like, west and east are lateral along the beach. North is heading towards the forest. South is heading towards the surf. So, that probably is the easiest way to remember it. South is surfward. But if you're trying to look around the beach, you're trying to go laterally along the beach, then yeah, probably west or east. Okay. Make me, both of you two. I'll let you choose. Your choice between scout or survivalist.
Okay, you're a scout or survival.
I'm doing.
That was a joke. It was a bad one.
survival.
And I failed because of it.
Sienna, if you want, you can actually add rocky terrain-wise as well
Heck
for this
yeah.
particular one. Okay.
Cool.
Still not terrible. So, mark that as a failure, Dukan. Mark that as a success, Sienna. So, as you go on, you can hear the occasional little, like, of, like, the parchment being scrawled on with the quill behind you, of Tophren sort of, like, shadowing you guys, taking every moment he can to, like, improve or expand on the map. Dukan, you're kind of focused more on, like, while you are looking for a landing spot, the thought of, like, enemy mice, fighting mice is, like, crawling in your
with
head.
no moral qualms.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. You're like,
rip and tear
exactly.
until it is done.
yeah, you're just like snacks, like in your head, just like resounding. And so, like, you find yourself more looking for predators and looking for mice, like defaulting back to that state more than.
That is what Dukan was so
somewhere.
excited to come on the mission for, was the aspect of finding a great beast to get to kill. So that makes sense, yeah.
Exactly. However, Sienna, after a little bit of time, you kind of because you're going through the brush on the side of the beach, going through that beach grass, and eventually you feel like a little spray of surf hit the side of your cheek, and there's a smell not unlike slate. And again, you don't really have much experience either with the coast. It's not really a thing where you're from, but at the same time, and I'm just double checking that to make sure I'm not a liar because of where you've lived. Oh yeah, no, you're nowhere near it. But you are familiar with riverbeds, and the same principle applies. Wet stone almost always means shore, and specifically rocky outcroppings. In a river, it's pretty much the entire thing. Like, muddy outcroppings is one thing, but like if you get towards rock, it's like a canyon or a cave where the water's carved down into the earth. At a beach, same principle, just it's carved through the sand into the actual stone below. And a small grotto like that, cut into the stone, that might be a good place to land ships safely away from the eyes of predators. Assuming there's not predators already there.
Tophren, make a note of this location. If we don't find anything better, this is probably the barge's best chance at docking.
Yes, of course. And he just sort of like scrawls that down quickly. Just goes, if it's all right, could we get a little closer so I can see the size of it? That might be relevant. If it's too small, it might not work for the barge.
Suppose whatever's best for the barge we must do.
All right. If you want to go, I'll follow. And he's gonna just take the little map and slide it back in the tube and close it up with the quill in there too. And he's gonna get on all fours, and he is gonna really try.
What kind of weapon does he carry?
with this one.
What kind of weapon does he carry?
A mace. A metal flanged mace. It's pretty wicked looking, actually.
Respect.
Literally the same as you see in here. He also tends to carry a couple of vials of honey. He used to carry a lot of like spirits on him, but now it's honey bottles.
Respect.
So let's see whether our boy actually can hold up. Yo, Toffrin
Nice.
Toffrin succeeded.
Yeah.
So getting on all fours, Toffrin actually like crawls after you guys in like full-on mouse mode. Like he's not walking upright anymore. He is using his mousy nature for this role. So if it weren't for the fact that he was rolling something that's in his nature, he might have to take a penalty, but he succeeded significantly. And so he sort of like looks at the two of you, and as you two get closer, he sort of like shadows you, and he does an admirable job of not making any sound. Till eventually, you'll come out to this large slate cropping, like outcropping. And below, this big, carved out, sort of like water chamber. Like this little, it's almost, I would say a bay, but that's way too big. Talking much smaller here. It's more than big enough to land parties of mice. You could even land a barge. One at a time, but you could. There's no real way upwards from here. You'd have to go out along the side of the outcropping with the tortoises, but it could work. And honestly, thinking about it, the time it would take for a barge to pull up, disgorge a tortoise, and then pull back, the tortoise could theoretically walk out while the next barge is coming in. You get a pretty good train of deployment here.
This is it. This is the spot.
I think I agree with the weasel. And you hear a shh as he pulls out paper again and scrawls the shape of it down.
How do you do that? Look at these things and put it on paper.
Oh, practice, I guess. My patrol leader's been trying to beat it into me, and I guess it's sticking. And he's actually pretty good at it. I'm gonna have him make a roll for it, because, you know, why not? Let's do it. And then he also gains the other bonus as well, because he's been trained. Which would be this. Yeah,
Nice.
he's doing great. He's actually a pretty good sketch artist. I don't think, Sienna, you've ever seen him draw.
Oh.
Turns
Nice
out he
to
has
see
a marketable
that.
skill.
Nice to see that one of the many, many hobbies you've picked up in the time that I've known you has finally stuck.
Yes. Well, again, I've had a lot of help with this, but thank you, Sienna.
Much better than the time you apprenticed for my parents and burned our kitchen down.
I try not to think about that, and like,
See why?
The fuck is a kitchen?
you cook food in it, or in my case, you burn it. He finishes scrawling the location on the map, and he puts like a big green like circle around it in like a second set of ink that looks like it's made largely out of like crushed grass. So it's really less like a bright green and more like a dull green, like the oh shit I skinned my knees in grass green, but it works. He puts the thing away. All right. So we have ourselves a landing spot, and, well, he peeks his little mousy head over the edge and sort of, like, looks around. And I don't really see anything but a couple of barnacles down there. I can't really see into the water, it's too dark. But
Why don't you go for a swim and take a closer look?
He gives you a deadpan look. I'm not going to get myself killed.
Mhm.
I'm trying not to. But... There's an idea. He's gonna make another little quick roll. Come on, buddy. Yeah, Toffrin's doing okay today. He walks over and sees a little hunk of like empty of like broken shell nearby, grabs it, and it's pretty big for him. It's like the size of a shoebox relative to him. And he just goes, I don't want to go down there. But if there's anything living down there, it'll hear this. And he just heaves it over the edge
Well, if there's anything living down there and they hear us, what's to stop them from coming up here if they're able?
It's water.
There are plenty of creatures that can traverse both water and land, as I'm sure you're familiar with.
Crabs can't climb.
Did you-
Crack. Crack, 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 crack. Sploosh as the rock like tumbles down, hits shale,
Yes.
shatters, splits into 4 more pieces, rolls down.
Things
the water.
on land can also hear the racket that you just made, Toffrin.
Yes, but if we don't know what's down there, it won't matter that we found the perfect landing spot, right? We could go down there anyway, at least just wait.
If you get a shot, if you get a shot by that hedgehog's cannon, I'm going to be very cross with you.
The hedgehog's not going to shoot unless you blow that whistle and get us killed.
I am more worried about you blowing the whistle and getting us killed when whatever down there wakes up.
Nothing's
That's
down
where you-
there. I'm
Yeah.
looking. There's nothing.
You know, you see a shrimp. You see a single, like, pale, almost translucent shrimp go like,
Sea
and it's like slide
creature.
away and into another hole.
I don't
That's it.
think that can climb.
And it's like
We
it's
got
like 1/4 the
lucky.
size of a mouse.
Thankfully, there was nothing this time, but in the future, if you could please consult with the party before making rash decisions, that would be preferable.
Fine. It wasn't rash. It was calculated, but I
I'm quite
understand.
sure.
Anyway, proved our point.
It's
There's
like
nothing
I'm the
down.
only one not trying to die in this mission.
Not
Got a
today.
weasel who's bloodthirsty for a fight, and a mouse who has not the best logic, always.
Dukan is always bloodthirsty.
Yes, but you're extra bloodthirsty today, aren't you?
New land.
I could see it in your little weasel eyes, don't lie.
New land.
You're beady.
New blood to share.
As I suspected.
Well, now that we've found ourselves a landing spot, let's, can we get off the Hell Beach and maybe into some of the cover of forest, far away from the place where we can be ambushed from any direction?
Says the mouse who just caused that loud racket.
Yes, and proved we're fine and safe for now. He looks rather pleased with himself, not gonna lie. Like, straight up, he's like, oh yeah, I took a shot. Fucking worked. I'm getting better.
Sayana is half-heartedly contemplating how easy it would be for Toffrin to go missing on this mission.
He is very close to the edge. Yes, that is true. All it would take is just a nobody but really Dukan would ever know.
Were she a lesser mouse, she might actually be tempted into doing that, but despite her issues with Toffrin, she's not gonna stoop that low.
She's not quite homicidal with disdain yet.
Yet.
If
All
Dukan
right.
was a lesser weasel, he would kill the Toffrin and then blame it on the other mice and then start a mice war.
Of course.
So that he could take the land from the mice that already live here.
Oh, jeez. That's
Sounds
actually
about
pretty
right.
fucked up.
Yeah. But he's not that evil.
Yet.
Wink. He's not that evil. Wink.
Wink.
So,
That you know of.
true.
I mean, I play him like every 2 weeks.
If that's what you're thinking. You're like, it's not that evil that you know of.
No, I'm just a human played by Dukan every day.
So then, where do you two go from here? You can go north into the forest, west or east along the beach. East would take you back towards where you landed, or you really can't go south. South is the ocean, so unless you want to go for a swim in the surf.
I'm worried about running into these other mice.
I would almost prefer we do before landing. Well, On the one hand, we won't have backup, but on the other hand, at least we'll know what we're in for before the rest of the party arrives.
Yeah, but are we the ones to have these fucking talks?
Why not?
We aren't in charge.
Sion is second in command to the second in command to the guy who serves the top guy.
To the guy who serves the top guy coffee, maybe.
I'm your brothers, sisters, cousins, twice removed roommate from college. What does that make you? Absolutely nothing. Yeah.
I love that line.
Such a good one. Oh god, Rick Moranis owned it in that movie. But so, what do you? By all means, feel free to bandy this out as much as you guys need to out of character. This is a big decision.
I mean, I'm kind of down for whatever, but I am also leaning towards following the mice tracks.
Decisions. I say we go find. We've tracked down the mice tracks. Just see where it leads.
I would take you
At least head in that direction, and we can always veer off if we have a reason to.
Okay. All right. And also, Dylan, I'm going to weigh in. Probably 8th in command. Cedric is a patrol leader out of like 12. Actually, no, 12th in command. Because each barge has a commander, and then above them they have sub-commanders and marshals and such. So he's not a captain yet. One day, maybe.
I figured he was fairly low on the totem pole.
He's
high enough
solid.
to where Sienna really respects him, but low enough to where her being directly under him doesn't carry that much sway.
There's
Yes.
a chain of command, and someone
Is on it. Hell yeah, Dylan nailed it. In fairness, it must be said, patrol leaders are important. And I will mention this for the benefit of the crowd as well, for the audience. The Mouse Guard is designed to be modular. Its patrols are self-aware and they're self-functioning. They're meant to be independent operators. So a patrol literally might not see a guard captain for months on end while out on patrol. So patrol leader is a pretty significant point of trust and a pretty significant position of power. This is just a surprising concentration of authority in this expedition, where you have the literal matriarch of the guard, her best captains, including but not limited to legendary figures, and immediately below is the patrol leaders, and then below them is you guys. So you're in a weird position where the patrol is not the biggest structure you're interacting with in the regular. So northward it would be then, it sounds like. So, as you get further in, I'm going to need you to make hunter rolls, survival rolls, or scout rolls. Make your pick. Pick your poison. And on top of that, I'm going to say, Sienna, you continue to add rocky terrain as beyond the beach it becomes very rocky. So I'm willing to give you that.
In that case, I'm going to do survival with rocky terrain.
Okay.
I did Hunter.
You're passing by one, man. I'm so sorry.
I think I'm also passing by one.
I have gone from 0 to halfway on my passes.
I know.
Which is the one to just use one dice? Is that Persona?
Yes. If you burn a Persona point, you can add a die to the pool.
One. There we go.
Another success. Okay.
Alright, that's good enough for me. 2 successes.
So, Dakan, we'll start with you. So, you're tracking down these mice paws, or these mice trails, but then the second you hit the forest, it kind of goes cold. The forest itself has a springy kind of, like, how do I put it, like a cud, kind of like, or like a kudzu kind of floor. The whole thing is very much like a mycelial, like, growth of clover. So it's not very... There's not really any places to leave paw prints. There's no sand. It's stone, and then above it is like a layer of moss and like wet clover. While you could catch paw prints, whichever mice are coming through here are careful to not leave any signs of their passing, clearly. So the trail kind of goes cold. The forest is open enough where a mouse can go any direction they would like. And because it's a pine forest, all that's on the ground is pine needles and the odd pine cone. It's like a couple of oak leaves here and there, but it's nowhere near the kind of ground cover you would see in the mouse territories. So you really can't use leaf dispersal to guide you. That said, you can, however, track the bigger animals. You can see that there is what appears to be a couple of crab tracks going deeper in. It's a big one, but it's not like huge. It's U-sized, from what you can tell. It's probably hunkered down in some rocky outcropping here. If you want to climb a tree, you totally can. It might give you a better view.
Yeah, I
Sienna.
would like to climb a tree.
All right, buddy. Kick that tree's ass. I'll get back to you in a second, unless you roll another hunter roll for that. Sienna. While Toucan makes that roll, there's your failure. Yay. There's your failure. Click that, baby.
600.
So while Toucan goes over to a tree and begins to swiggle his way up it, you've been a little more keenly aware of these tracks. Toucan has fought mice, but he tends to fight bigger game. And while he has fought in the Mouse Wars, or at least the Hedgehog Wars, the Regimor, he's not really... His eyes are set on greater glories than just killing normal mice. However, your eyes are practical, and you see the telltale sign of trail sign left behind by mice. It's not big. It's intentionally made to be small. Little groupings of stone on the ground. Scratches occasionally on trees that by anyone else's gauge would be like, oh, this was an animal that walked by or whatever. But no, these are too small and too deep to be just like animal scratching. Animal's claw would be too thick for this. The language is unrecognizable. Some kind of glyph structure you're unfamiliar with. It's not like the common mouse tongue or mouse script in the territories, but it's clearly made by field mice hands. And from what you can tell, at very least, the field sign is very similar to what you're used to. It's a sharp stone surrounded by a couple of rocks on each end to make a triad. And the longer side of that sharp stone points further north, which is a pretty good sign looking at the way some of these little, like, tiny etched mouse runes are sort of carved into the shape of the bark with the shape of the bark. You think you have a path to find them.
Okay. This is like hobo hieroglyphics back in the 1920s. They'd make little marks on fences to let you know if the people there were friendly, if they'd feed you, if they run you off their land, etc.
Yeah. A lot of Boy Scouts do the same thing, actually, with areas. Like, I remember coming across one path, they just had, like, scrawled on the ground was, like, an X. And it's just like, what's that? And Skymaster was like, oh, that tells you if you take that path, you end up on someone's land, they're a bunch of jackasses. So I was like, oh, okay. So apparently it's a thing still done today.
No, so if I'm ever hiking in a forest and I see an X, turn around.
Sometimes. Oftentimes an X used in the middle of a path, especially if it sticks, means gone home. Or it's like a bad path, like passage blocked. I think it's the circle with a dot in the middle is gone home. Which can also be a marker for someone's death. Because that's a trail sign for a passing. Yeah. Yeah, real life thieves can't. Totally a thing. If anyone's interested, seriously, look up trail signs.
Very cool. Yeah.
So the path you found is pretty straightforward. It seems like it's like a lot of mouse paths. In the territories, mice will stick to the roots of trees. They'll walk around the edges, sort of stick as close as they can. Because the wider open areas are places where hawks and falcons and owls and other bigger prey can prey on you, and you very keenly become aware of that you're standing on ground well beyond the scent border. That it is entirely possible you might encounter bears and wolves and foxes out here. Something that wouldn't go anywhere near the scent border. So who knows? Which means these mice stick to these paths to survive. Which that thought is interrupted by Dukan going thud and hitting the ground next to you, as I'm going to say that hunter roll was you climbing your way up, and you're not very used to pine trees.
Wet bark.
Pretty much. You grab like a hold of one of the branches, and they do what pine tree branches do, which is when they're small and wet, they just go blah, and it just dunked you back onto the ground. Not enough to hurt, but enough to like... No, it'll hurt, but it's not going to physically injure you.
I wriggle the water off and kind of like clutch my back as I get up.
That looked unpleasant. Are you okay?
Don't speak of this ever to anyone, or I kill you.
Of course. Never a word. Like, he had this image of, like, big, wet mouse eyes, like he's on the verge of crying from that, but he's okay, he'll be fine.
My pride, Dukan's pride is injured.
Sienna, you have a path towards mice. What you think
I
mice.
Say we follow it, not just because it leads to mice, but it seems like it would be the safest passage, since they are familiar with this land and we are not. They seem to think these are safe areas to travel through, so I say we do the same.
What makes you so sure they...
I would rather deal with an unfriendly mouse than an unfriendly bear.
I'm saying, when we meet them, what if they are not nice?
They might not be nice to you, but what reason would they have to not be nice to me?
People change.
Sienna grew up in a small town, so the thought of mice warring with each other is kind of unheard of. She's used to the big grand tales of battles against weasels and hedgehogs and the like, so she's just like, I don't understand your meaning. I'm a mouse, they're a mouse. Naturally, we'll get along.
Tofrin pipes up and raises a hand. Actually, I think Dukan might have a point.
Oh, Tofrin, nobody asked you.
Go on.
It's important. So
Very well.
He plants his hands on his little like thighs and sort of like, all right. Look, I'm not a historian, but I listened to my old patrol leader, and he talks about ancient things. He seems to be a bit of a historian. He was the guy who sent us on our way with the map. Jasper. Nice guy. He talks about Falknir and Silphino. And back then, the mice were divided into tribes based on the predators who ruled them. And they would fight on behalf of their lords all the time. We should consider the possibility that if there are mice living here, they might not even be unto themselves a people. They might be enslaved to possibly predators. And if they're in the thrall of predators, they might not have a choice on who they attack.
I just kind of like
I know that's
point
the dark
at
thought.
Point at Tofrin, like.
It seems like a lot of hokum and old nonsense, but suppose
hokum
anything's
and
possible.
Old nonsense.
Excuse me.
No, not you are, like your like possession of like your people's hokum and old nonsense.
Well, your old stupid stories. Like, yeah.
I can't be held responsible for the things that happened 10 generations ago.
They don't forget.
and to them it might be the same. For the record, Toffin rolled a 6 on a history roll he was untrained on. That was the die roll. So, like...
How dare you show me up, Toffrin? I'll get you for this.
Toffin is now...
She's just doubling down now because Toffrin proved her wrong. Like, she knows he's right, but she's just like, nah. You're just making assumptions, Toffrin. You're worrying about nothing.
Toffin said his piece. He'll still abide by whatever you folks do.
No, she will absolutely keep that in the back of her mind while fronting to Toffrin that she's not concerned about it.
Okay. So, I'm going to say, if you folks keep going northward after the tracks, which is roughly where they go, eventually, you guys stumble across the first sign of life. A small rocky outcropping under a pine tree, whose roots have kind of like throttled this boulder, this shale boulder, kind of cracked it a little bit beneath it. And where one of the cracks is formed is like a small enough hole where a mouse and a weasel could like squeeze in. This is a thing this is actually kind of the one advantage of not having a hedgehog with you, and you suddenly realize that might be part of why Gwendolyn didn't want the hedgehog, who is not capable of compressing his ribcage so deeply. Weasels and mice can fit into the same size burrows. Mm-hmm. Hedgehogs are thick. They cannot do dangerous. That. Yeah. So this is your domain.
Yes, stay back. We'll investigate.
All right, I'll guard the entrance then. Wait for you to return. And Toffrin puts away the scroll caddy that he's been carrying and pulls out his mace. And like, it's hefty. The thing is big. The thing is almost as big as one of his thighs. That would hurt.
Compensating for something.
Oh, absolutely. You know for a fact that when he chose his weapon of choice, he chose probably the scariest looking thing he could. This is basically as close to like someone going like, I'm gonna get myself a defensive weapon. I'm going to the mall and getting one of those ninja swords from one of those cheap like knockoff like stores inside.
You'd be better with a fucking baseball bat. Like
basically. The good news is that despite the fact that he probably chose it only for aesthetics, it is still a very capable bludgeon made by a skilled smith in the mouse guard. Yep. So unlike that mall sword, this will kill someone.
Could be Snake Sienna.
Who goes first?
Definitely me.
Okay. Make me a hunter roll.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Sienna, you can choose hunter or scout.
I don't need to fail anymore.
You can add rocky terrain-wise.
I have the same in both, so I'll stick with scout because I have a few fails on that.
Okay. There you go. But don't forget, you're now hunter 7. Actually,
no, it was 6. I was at 5. I went up to 6.
Okay.
I misspoke earlier.
All right, that's fair. So that's the case.
I actually did very well. 4, 5, 6.
Nice. All right. Yeah. Wow, you both are killing it. So Dukan, Sienna, this is a pretty tight fit. This is going to require you to get on all fours, both of you, and kind of squeeze through. Dukan, you go first. Head first, as all weasels do. And this is the advantage of having a helmet made out of bone. You can basically turtle your way up as you move forward.
Yeah, I definitely put it into heavy armor mode before I get on in there.
Absolutely. It's a tight fit, but like you're armored up. So at least if your head pokes into a mouse den or something and you end up eating a mouthful of swords, you might be okay.
It's gonna look absolutely horrifying to them though, because it's literally a fucking eel skull with the secondary jaws that like come up like over the mouth.
You literally look like Skull Greymon from Digimon, like that ridiculous, like over the top, scary ass. Like this isn't a real skeleton. This is a comically oversized, teeth too big, jaw not fitting skeleton. Just happens that it's because you made it out of different skull parts, so it is real and quite terrifying. You sort of peek your head along, and as you do, eventually you get to a point where you can clearly see there's a burrow here. It might not have originally been made by mice, but it has definitely been occupied recently by mice. And you can see that there's a small little wooden table, a pair of chairs, a lamp that is not burning, but is very clearly like has been recently because there's bioluminescent algae nearby that's still glowing from the light. And also what appears to be 2 barrels for food and water, and a little privy, has to be privy. It's like a pit in the ground on the other side of the room. And what looks like a weapon rack, which just has a pair of sharpened wooden stakes on them. So clearly like primitive javelins.
I like take all this in, looking around, and like pop my body out and like scramble around in there.
Come in. Honey boy, come back in.
From behind you, Sienna, you can hear him say, "My name is Toffrin, but I guess Honey Boy will do. Fine. Give me a moment." And you can hear that.
Smells like honey.
I say to Sienna.
You two should get a room already.
Think I could get away with eating him?
Never mind.
That was a very long pause for a second.
She's like, her brain took a second to process everything. It's just like, it's not worth it. Not worth explaining to him what I meant.
For the record, both of you two got successes on that roll.
Yeah,
Sienna.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Sienna, as you were crawling in, your scout roll is high enough where you actually recognize that, like, in this softer earth, you can actually see what appear to be the little claw marks of mice. This is definitely field mice. The tunnel was probably a snake burrow at one point, but it has been reclaimed by mice, as you don't see any sign of a snake anywhere near this tunnel. Like, there's a very specific shape it leaves with its burrows. It kind of squeezes its way through and compresses any of the other paw prints. But these are fresh handholds made for mice. Crawling in and out is easy. Probably easier than it was for Toucan. Eventually, when you get into this little chamber, and you can see Toffrin finally pops his way in, shakes the little bit of dirt off that he has on him. Now, this is a cozy little spot. Definitely mouse.
Do you make of this?
And I point to like the weapon rack of like very primitive weapons.
Protection from the wildlife
No.
and other predators.
No. Wrong.
And I like put my halberd on, like I kind of like stick it into the ground hard enough for it to like stick, and then I point at the blade on it, and I point at Thorben's mace, and I point at the weapons. Like, there's a big difference. Their weapons are not made with metal and stuff. That does not bode well. Why would they not be making their weapons with metal?
Perhaps there are not the natural resources for them in this area.
I kind of share a look with Honey Boy. Like, this, like, my eyes are telling a story, and the story they tell is she's in denial.
When you two are done batting your eyes at each other.
I'm gonna say both of you two make me a... this is gonna be interesting. Both of you make me a nature roll for different reasons, since you both have different natures after all.
Oh no. I did go down one.
Okay.
I would like to explode my 6.
Okay. You can expend
that's a fate.
Yep, it's a fate point.
I'll expend fate as well.
Roll them bones. That's 2. You also have persona points if you want to use them. Currently, you are failing, but you are not in the negative.
What does Persona do again? I always forget.
You just add a die.
Oh, that's what I just did, right?
Yeah. So that got you a 2.
I think we got some persona points at the beginning of the session. I think
did, you
3
both got-
from Bon.
Yeah.
I think you're right, yeah.
You're right,
So
we
if you
did.
want to. So you still have a second one in reserve before you even dip into your own.
I've used one of my own.
I
I
would
would
too.
like to use one from reserve, and you can have the other 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Dang it. Well, I got one path, That's good enough.
You did, and you don't have any traders, so...
Nah, I failed.
Okay. So, Dukan, in your head, that makes perfect sense. You're not wrong, for the record. You know that there is a little bit of truth to this. Weapons of war are built differently than weapons against predators, especially for mice. For mice, weapons of war, much like a person, you can kill a person with a stick or a rock.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really need much. Against a predator, you need something really scary, something really effective to kill a predator.
War indicate culture.
Exactly. What you see here appears to be, for you, it's a sign these mice are primitive. Sienna, however, you take a look at this and you realize he's partly right. However, what he's missing is the fact that while these weapons aren't made out of iron, there's a flip side to this. Iron weapons are expensive. They cost a lot to manufacture, they cost a lot to keep. Wood weapons can be made en masse, and that rack has a couple of spears in a relatively abandoned building, which means people who were through here recently think that those spears are abundant enough to leave them behind. Which tells you they are manufacturing inferior weapons, but they are manufacturing weapons. There's a large number of these like them. So these mice are probably armed in bulk. Maybe not in quality, but definitely in bulk.
Did it occur to you that perhaps they have the good weapons on their body and left the inferior ones behind because they have a good amount of weapons that they don't need these? Except for backup.
Dukan does not see banding this wooden table, do you?
Taking the time and expensive resources to band a flimsy table in a way station?
I hate to admit it, but I think she's right. But you both have a point, but I think she's more right. He kind of like winces, realizing he's basically telling the weasel in the room he's wrong, or at least partly wrong. But
I just kind of like look at him for a moment.
I get your point, and I think it's totally valid. I just think that Sienna's might be relevant. That it means that they might be armed and masked.
Does this place look decorated at all?
Oh, make me a hunter roll. I know I keep doing that to you, but you're gonna do it again.
Okay.
Specifically for you, Dukan. Sienna, you don't need a roll for this. Your roll is high enough. That's enough for you. Don't worry about the reroll. You're good. It's a success. In a way, it's different than the mouse territories. Mouse territory is tapestry, cloth, pretty. It's usually colorful and made warm. Mice like to make warm places. This place is decorated, but it's a very brutalist architecture of a sort. This chamber is left simple and primitive, but there are signs of decoration. Specifically, not in the sides of the chamber or the ceiling, but the floor below you. You can see occasionally in the ground, they've inset what look like bricks. And the bricks are simple, but they're in patterns. There's one particular motif that you see repeated on the ground, which is a mouse head. It has to be a mouse head. It's literally the three triangles too smaller for ears. Like, you've seen this before, both of you two. But then below, is the same color, is a triangle for a body. And then what looks like a hand. But where the body and the head are in black, the hand is in like a yellow mud. Almost like a gold color.
Yeah, I definitely...
And that's like a repeating motif.
I definitely fucking slam the old halberd down on the ground with the blade and grab Sienna by the cloak and plop her right down on there and point at it and go,
Look. You think I say things because prejudice. Wrong. I say things because history rhymes.
And you see it, and if that's not a mouse with a gauntlet, like, that's a mouse with a gauntlet. Or something, like a golden hand. Probably a gauntlet, historically. That would make more
So
sense.
they have a leader, as do most territories.
Not leader. Oppressor.
So
It looks like it's
Bit of a
strangling the
stretch
mouse,
to-
is how I'm picturing it in my head. Is that right? It's like clenched
So-
around the mouse, yeah?
So, well, it's actually the other way around. It's the mouse has this gauntlet raised up, but it is a position of power. It's a threatening gesture. It's a mouse head onward with a raised fist, which is like, you know, anyone who out there, that's like literally fascism 101 is just like like a raised fist or a mailed fist is like literally
Yeah,
the imagery
that's
of
really what
pirate
triggered in
kings.
my mind. That's literally all,
Yeah.
all it took neuron activated in Derek's
he's
monkey brain.
power posing like a girl boss.
He is 100%, absolutely. This is Stone Age mouse equivalent of like T posing over your foes. It's the equivalent.
Dukan, if you were to ever, perchance, for whatever reason, commission a painting of yourself, I'm not sure if that's something that weasels do, but would you not want to portray yourself as the most powerful, strong, capable leader
Easy.
that you could possibly?
On top of mound of corpses or bare severed head. Not
Yes.
this. That is the symbol of oppression.
Is this some weasel culture I'm not familiar with?
Perhaps.
I mean,
There is a cultural divide between you two
Yeah.
for sure.
in Dukan's mind, he notices this shit and knows exactly what it is, because that's what he's lived in his whole fucking life.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably your biggest thing right now, is that you actually are familiar with cycles of oppression. That is Weasel life.
Yeah.
Weasel life
Oh.
is overlords and lords.
Yeah, I tell Sienna,
Did not sail across ocean to live the way we lived back there.
I'm not really saying anything about kowtowing to these mice, but I think it's a bit unfair to judge them before we've met them, and you do seem to be making a lot of generous assumptions about them.
We need to get back to ships soon.
and I like wrench my fucking halberd out of the ground, make towards the tunnel.
What time of day is it?
You're both underground. You don't know, but the last time you saw, it was still light out. Sun was still relatively high. So, I'm willing to say you guys probably have, like, in-game time 15 minutes left before it becomes too dark and you should start heading towards the beach.
In that case, I agree. We've made some interesting discoveries, but it's not worth disobeying Lady Gwendolyn.
All right. So
I make
Guys
sure
are
that
hitting-
fucking little honey boy. I keep forgetting the end of his name. I can remember Toph, but I
Toph.
can never remember the Fryn or Vryn, so I'm just calling
It's-
him Honey Boy.
Tofrin.
Tofrin.
Thryn.
I
But
tell,
calling him Toph is probably fine too.
I'd call Toph to make sure that he gets the image of the fucking thing.
He nods and he takes out a spare piece of parchment, rolls it across the ground, takes a chunk of what appears to be charcoal and just like rubs it over the top, and he gets an etching of it pretty quickly, of the shape of it. And when he gets to holding it back, he takes out an ink and he, and this one like more of a yellowy kind of ochre, and like smears it across the hand where that would be, to capture the original imagery a little more accurately. Then he sort of, and then rolls it up and puts it inside of his tube. Hopefully that holds. Etchings are kind of rough, but they do. And he kind of like scoots his way back out through the tunnel after you folks. The trip back is pretty quiet. At least in the forest, anyway. On the beach, on the other hand, you can hear loud, unpleasant squawking sounds. Sound of gulls.
Please don't. No, the whole time since we got to the beach, I was like, please don't let us run into any seagulls because I hate seagulls. They are the pest of the beach.
You're not wrong. It's not a crazy amount. This isn't like a major beach or anything in the US where seagulls get fat and abundantly numerous based off of like scraps from the average American or like tourist who throws food out, or American tourist, the worst combination. Where they're
We
like,
have
oh yes,
a lot
feed
of
the
seagulls
skybirds.
here.
We do too.
We're 30 minutes from the beach and we still have seagulls out here.
Seagulls literally fly up from one coast to another in Florida. Like, I go to the hot dog stand here, and it's literally like seagulls and crows and blackbirds as far as I can see.
They all just get in a group and they're like, hey, let's go hit up the hot dog stand over on Crystal Beach.
I sit down and literally I have like 5 wrens, 2 crows, and 3 gulls all at me the whole time. So from what you can see, it's like 4 to 5 gulls, and it appears as though as if they're picking fights with crabs. They're small or moderately sized. They're about your size. Sometimes they're going to like actually bite at them, and the crabs are kind of like clicking back with their claws. And you hear a loud shriek further down, closer towards where you guys ended up on the beach. And you can see this one gull bloodied, with a wing like limply dragging behind it, being chased by the biggest motherfucking crab you've ever seen.
Oh Jesus!
This thing is easily twice as big as Uticon. I actually looked this thing up. I looked up the crabs on the natural order scale. They actually aren't on here. So I'm putting this thing equivalent to you in terms of lethality to con.
That's fair.
So
platform.
Pretty much, yeah. And you can see this crab has dislocated the wing of the gull, and its claws are bloody, and it's just chasing after the gull, which is limping down the beach until it literally grabs it by the neck, and you just hear a as it breaks its neck, and the gull goes limp, and it begins to tear into it,
Nice.
along with like dozens of other crabs. The gulls immediately like pull back, thinking like, "Oh shit, I don't want to mess with this." Thank you, Shady.
Thanks,
Appreciate it. Well, that's there now. Giant ass crab with like about 12 smaller crabs, all roughly mouse-sized, around it.
Khan should probably kill that, right?
Do you think you can? I mean, of
He
course,
just starts, like,
Dukan thinks he
just
can.
starts,
Well, I don't know why I'm
running off
asking.
towards the crab.
Do you think you can? I won't know unless I try. So you're running to engage this thing?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay. Like, Toffrin watches as you sprint off and then looks over at Sienna with like this giant wide-eyed look, like a pale face beneath his fur, just goes, does he do that often?
You know, I've only gone out on a mission with him once, but so far, yes. And if memory serves me correctly, in a few moments we will have the pleasure of seeing him beat this crab with his sword. Quite violently.
Oh, alright. Don't you think we should help a little? Just in case?
Gentlemen first.
Damn it, I knew you were going to say that. And he pulls out his mace and just goes, for the god! And like he's trying to do like the for the god, but it just his voice just cracks, and he's like, whatever, and he just runs down the beach.
Oh, honey mouse,
After this
or
thing.
honey boy, or whatever you're calling him. That's canon now.
Honey boy.
Honey boss.
He's honey boy.
Yeah, he goes like running down the beach towards this thing. Sienna, what are you doing?
Sienna probably just kind of takes a moment to watch as Dukan just runs through the beach slow-mo like Baywatch, except instead of long flowing hair bouncing around, he's just like got his tongue hanging out the side of his mouth as he runs forward in glee. And then
these little crabs like as I go, like en masse, like fucking Sauron in the Great Battle of the First Age.
meanwhile, Toprin's slightly chubby frame is just like toddling along after him. She's just like, how did I get myself into this? Before pulling out her spear and making her way forward.
Awesome. All right. So, with that, we're going to go to combat. There are 2 adversaries on this beach. Like, there are a small crowd of little crabs, roughly mouse-sized. As I said, about 12 of them. About, I'm going to just say, like, 9 of them at this point, as I'm not going to make you roll Dukan. Yeah, you saw on your way through these things. So these are, it's like kicking aside bowling pins. Like, it's not really difficult. They just kind of like, bam, just get knocked out of the way, land on their backs, right, and immediately just scooch off to their burrows across the beach. But the big one, which you can tell, like, as you're approaching, has been snipping off chunks of gull meat, slowly turns towards you as you approach, and raises its claws to welcome the challenge of this new, smaller, but more furry adversary. You are fighting 2 foes now.
Let's go.
And I'm going to say that Tophren will be holding his own against the extras. So he'll handle, like, the small crabs that aren't fighting you, Sienna, or you, or specifically, like, Tophren's moving as you command, Sienna. So you kind of just, it's letting you guys fight 12 people and effectively only fighting 6 small crabs.
That's fair.
So I'm going to need to know what your actions are. Attack, defense, maneuver, or feint.
I'm going to attack.
Each of you 2. Okay. That's an attack. I'm also going to very quickly over here grab myself a couple of dice. I should have some D10, some D6s. It's 1, so I don't game you guys.
Clickety clack, roll to attack.
Alright. So, what are you going to be using, Sienna?
What exactly does defense do again? I mean, it's kind of explanatory, but I think there's more to it than just blocking.
No, there is. So the way that defense works is basically depending on what you choose, your action will determine what the roll is. So in a combat situation, in a fight, for your defense is going to be, usually that's going to be a fight roll or a hunter roll. In this case, either one works. So yeah, fighter for this in particular. For you, Dukan, it's going to be hunter because, you know, fighting a beast in this case. Fighter or hunter works for this. Defense, however, is lore or nature. Or you can use, if you'd like, just your nature for your defense, Sienna.
Okay. But game-wise, like, what is it? I'm essentially blocking, correct? Or...
Pretty much. Defense would be, in this case, like any sort of maneuver that would allow you to... I'll just read it specifically. The defend action protects and strengthens your position in a fight. This can mean blocking your enemy's weapon. It can also mean, like, strategically positioning yourself in a safer location.
Okay. I think I'm going to go ahead and go with defense in an effort to block whatever swing first comes at me, because I'm running towards this creature, so I imagine it sees me and is preparing itself to strike upon my arrival.
I think that's fair. Okay, so yeah. Which, entertainingly, I'm going to let you decide which of you two want to go first, whether it be Sienna or Dukan.
You take the block
first. Okay. That's fair.
Alright, so each of you This is kind of squared up to two different opponents. Sienna, there's a crowd of small crabs between you and Dukan. Dukan, the small crabs really weren't an obstacle for you. They will be if they swarm you, but you have bigger fish to fry, literally.
Bigger crabes, bigger invertebrates.
So, Sienna, a small group of like 6 ghost crabs all square up to face you. They're like a little bit shorter than your head because they're more squat than you, but those little claws are probably as sharp as mouse daggers. And you do have Toffrin beside you, so your odds are pretty even.
Great.
So you're going to, because you're making a defense roll versus, in this case, a attack roll, as I recall, in this particular instance, yes, it's a versus. So you're going to be rolling versus their nature. So
nature versus nature?
pretty much.
Right.
Going to be rolling for this. Smaller crab. All right. Okay. All right. It's dead even. You both tie at the moment, so no advantage goes either way if you leave it as it is. Technically, neither of you succeed, but neither succeed. So
Go ahead and burn another persona. Got a few. Never mind. That's fine. We'll tie.
okay. So you walk up and bring your little button shield up with your mace behind you, and the crabs fall upon you like a tide. They're not really skilled in the truest sense. They're not even really coordinated, but they know how to swarm. Weirdly, though, they're used to swarming bigger things or dead things. You're a living thing, a little bit bigger than they are, and so they're a little confused. And with Toffrin charging like slightly ahead of you as well, now kind of side by side, they sort of come at you initially, and you hold up your shield. Toffrin brings forth his mace to defend, and they kind of break and begin encircling you in like a cyclical pattern, as they kind of are just like, and I'm gonna say, based on your roll. Ooh, that's interesting. You have a couple of skills that might be relevant here. I'm going to say you can't understand it, but they're chittering something. Dukan, you have Hunter, and it's high enough. You might know intrinsically the language of crabs, or at least the language of predator and prey. And you can hear them chittering in their language. New meat, small, strange, metal. No opening, no opening, find hole, stab, cut. And they just can't figure out how to go about it, basically.
Their brains are too small for they got dang head.
Pretty much. They're like, go, no, you go, no, that hole, no go, no go. And it's like circling, just not able to, they can't break your two-person phalanx, basically. Dukan, on the other hand, what's your roll? What are you making?
You said I can do attack or hunter?
A hunter will be attack or fighter, your call. Sorry, attack would be hunter or fighter. I don't know if my brain said that in the right order. Okay. Well, this is going to be a versus.
Some bad rolls. Ooh, that's some bad rolls right there.
I did tell you there is a point you're not going to want to fail these. I just want to make sure I got this right. So, entertainingly, with this...
I'm going to explode my 6. That's a 5. And I'm going to spend a persona.
Okay.
Ooh, no. That made it worse.
That's not good. Well, this is Big Crab. And Big Crab knows what's up. Wait.
Oh, fuck me. Sideways.
Yeah. Most beasts use their nature as their only role. This thing is a nature of 6. It's pretty big. So I did say it was a little bigger than you.
Yep.
And considering that these are two independent roles, attack is not versus. You're both hitting each other. You're just determining by how much. So it looks like you failed your roll.
Yep.
So you go in for this giant swing, and I figured just halberd up, doing the usual like chop kind of thing, and the crab moves at a speed you didn't think it could possess, and then you remember, right, they move ridiculously fast laterally, and much like the little crabs currently making a little double circle around these two mice, this one crab does the nani perfect like circle duck dead. Around you, and literally just like from nothing skitters around behind you at stunning speed and brings one claw down, grabs you, and you can feel a rib crack underneath its bite.
Literally an anime.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So this thing's claws, since you now have a guess at how this works, it adds an additional success to an attack if it succeeds.
Oh no.
So this thing grabs and cracks. We're looking at 4 successes versus what is your health, my friend?
5.
Make me a health roll.
Boy. Oh, that's not too bad.
That's pretty good. That was very necessary. You only take, for this... This is really tough. I'm gonna say your health is temporarily reduced by 2.
Oh no.
You have been... Actually, no. Leave it at 5. You're not temporarily reduced by 2. You're injured.
Oh no.
Yeah, that thing cracked one of your ribs, and it squeezed hard. It, like... If it keeps squeezing you like this, you're gonna have a problem. As this thing grabs you, and its strength is massive, and it lifts your noodly body upwards off the sand. So...
That's less than ideal.
Alright, what's your next rolls, folks? As I...
What is it to slap my heavy armor on?
I'm assuming that your armor is in light mode, so I'll just say because we talked about it being kind of like trick armor, we'll say that it's... You can just swap it at will as you need. So if you want to go heavy, you can totally go heavy. That increases your defense significantly.
Yeah, I need to do that, so I'm definitely going to do that. But then in that case, I'll still attack again.
All right. So yeah, it just adds 1 additional success to your disposition in a fight. So after you roll, add 1 success.
Oh, so that cancels out the minus 1d from injured.
Exactly.
Nice.
What were you saying, Natalie?
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm also attacking this round.
Okay. Sounds good. And Derek, what are you doing?
I'm going to attack him.
Okay.
I have him right where I want him. In melee range.
I'm not trapped in your claw with me. You're trapped in your claw with... You know what I mean. So, alright. We're going to start with Sienna again. Sienna and Tofrin. They are both phalanxed up and fighting against this wave of crabs. And you're going in for the attack now, I believe is what you said. So, because the fact that you do have a... I'm going to say this counts as... I think we said it like counted like an axe. Or let's say you can count it as an axe or a staff. But I would think like the axe is probably the safer bet. I think we even wrote it down what it counted as here. Oh, we still haven't written you're in somehow. What the heck? Your call. Do you want to count as an axe or a staff?
Stuff got if you notice, it has a little apostrophe or something there.
I've noticed that.
The accent. It deleted some stuff and replaced it with that for whatever reason.
That's so weird. We'll put backwards off of that. I think we agreed that the mace counted as an axe last I called.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
Okay.
I'm willing to go with that because I don't remember.
Okay. So, as long as you're wielding the axe, it is plus... I'm just going to write this down for you. Plus 1 success after a successful attack. And the shield is... However, it does give you the negative of -1 to defense and -1 to fainting. So again, that's if you use it, if you choose to use it. Your shield, on the other hand, does the opposite. Your shield actually, if I can get this, here we go, gives you +2 to defend, but it's -1 health recovery when you're healing, basically, to recover from fatigue. So
these are extra dice I'm adding.
Basically,
1d6,
yeah.
is that right? Okay.
So yes. So in this case, you're using the axe. You're making an attack. You're making. If you succeed on this attack, you add 1 extra success, which is just like a straight up success. The crabs, however, weren't attacking. Instead, as you go for a swing, right now, Dukan, you can hear the crabs say something like, "She's coming! Quick, move!" And they all begin skittering laterally. They're engaging in a maneuver. It's a versus roll. One of you two is going to succeed. One of you two is going to fail. So let's roll it out.
Bastards.
Crusty.
What am I
Crusty
rolling
crab
again?
pizza. Attack roll.
Yeah. So
no,
that
but what
would
is
be,
attack?
fighter or hunter, your call.
Fighter or hunter.
I think they're identical for you, so it's really what you prefer. It's
Yeah,
2.
but 2 in fighter. Where's my hunter? Oh, I
I'm
have
willing
one
to say
in
you can
hunter.
also count flash flood wise to this because again you are on the beach. It's still pretty moist here, so I'm going to
Okay.
give it to you.
So let's do fighter plus that. Yes.
Nice.
Okay, so you
Mhm.
beat them by 1, another success.
Mhm.
So put a success in your fighter. As you and Toffrin like share a look, and even though you both don't like each other, you've known each other long enough to sort of read each other a little bit. You both kind of like lunge out, and the crabs try to dodge out of the way, but one of the crabs kind of bumps into another one, and you just hear like "move, move," and then crunch as like a pair of maces just smack them into the sand, and they're just like bent into the ground at like odd and unnatural angles. And you just hear like soft chittering coming from them. They're probably knocked out. Dukan, you on the other hand are fighting this crab, and the crab pulls you closer, and in crab language, in the language of predators, the soft like bubbling sound coming from its jaw, which translates, as far as you can understand, roughly as "this ends in death," and it begins to just squeeze. It's attacking you as well. So
Okay.
it's another independent roll. Let's see how it goes.
That's what I'm fucking talking about, boy. Get fucked
Oh,
on, crab.
Nice.
Absolutely. Oh my god. If you
Oh,
have
yeah.
a fate point you want to burn on this,
Yeah.
that is so
100%.
many 6s.
Yeah, I do. Could I? How many 6s would I? Okay.
You
I have
spend
several
1
fate
fate
points.
point, you get to re-roll all of your 6s. It makes
Ooh.
all your 6s explode.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Okay, well that didn't change anything, but that's okay.
Okay. Still pretty awesome though.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So as it begins to squeeze, like your armor, as you kind of like shrug it on, like
Yeah.
sort of
Like-
presses down, the bone plates kind of like move further down and kind of get between the thing's claw and your back. And it kind of just like tries to squeeze, and you can see like its antenna, relatively emotionless, kind of like getting a little closer, like becoming a little more concerned. How do you like attack this thing? What's your move? What do you do?
I would like to take my halberd and crush like into his actual claw and like just like shatter that bitch, and then like as he's forced to drop me, skitter underneath him and then like jump up behind him and slam into his back with my halberd.
Okay, so you managed to, with the attack roll you got, with the number of successes you got, you managed to sort of wedge your axe into like the halberd into the claw. It's already struggling with the armor. Kind of just like leverage it back, and you can hear like as like the claw like pops back against its action, which probably hurts. It's like grinding cartilage together, and like the crab just hisses and drops you. You just skitter underneath it and leap up. You hear it, and you just drop your axe, your halberd down. There's a crunch as it sinks into the shell on the back. The thing lets loose like this little, like this deep, shrill, like it's kind of between deep and shrill, like burbling sound, high pitched at its top end, a deep, like bass thumb on the other end of distress as you severely hurt it.
Yeah.
Next action, folks.
I want to maneuver.
Okay. What about you, Sienna? What are you doing?
I'm gonna attack again.
Oh, yeah.
So if I'm maneuvering, what role is that?
So for this, entertainingly, lore or nature.
Okay, Gremlin nature.
And for you, you're attacking. It's, again, fighter or hunter, Sienna. So we'll do you first again.
Okay.
As the little crabs reveal, they are also attacking, seeing that moving isn't going to do them much. Time to sprint at you and hopefully drown you in bodies.
Mhm. And I can still add flash flood wise.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Ooh.
Let's expend another persona point. See
Okay.
how that gets us to start. Come on.
Hmm.
I have 2 left. I don't know if it's worth burning them yet.
I don't think it's quite dire enough yet in my assessment.
Yeah. That's what I was
So-
thinking.
You two
Oh.
attack at each other, I would say. Like, it's your call if you want to roll more persona. If you do and you roll high enough, you're probably not going to kill them, but it might make it more even.
No,
Honestly,
I'll-
they're not
I'll
going to kill you outright.
Take the blow.
Okay.
They're crabs. So what's the worst they can do?
Yeah, pretty much. So, like, as the crabs, like, encircle you, and you go to lash out at them again, this time, like, a couple of the crabs kind of, like, back and forth to each other, and Jakan, from where you are, you can hear, they swing! Strike now! And, like, as you bring your maces down, a couple of the crabs laterally scoot around you, and just stab at you with their claws. Not quite like a full-on pinch, more like a gash. And they basically both get you and Toffrin with like a line of blood along your back. It hurts. Not enough to be fully injured yet, but it's gonna be at that point very soon. If they get another
still
couple
you
blows on you.
Skittery little gremlins. Let me kill you.
All right, Jakan, what are you doing, buddy? You said you're
will-
doing a maneuver?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and jam the end of my halberd into the exposed meat of his back, where he can't hit me. Like, ride him around.
Okay. So this is interesting. So the crab is defending because that was a hell of a blow. So that's a versus. So you're gonna make your roll. You
Got
for
one
your
success.
axe, nice. And for the crab, it's using its shell. So it's armored shell plus 1 die to defend. So it's gonna be a big roll. Okay. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 successes on the crab's part versus your 2 successes. So you kind of jam your halberd into its back. The thing kind of rears back and forth, and then it seems to get this moment of brilliance and just sort of tucks and rolls backwards
Oh
over
shit.
you. Just kind of press. It doesn't hurt, but it's enough. Yeah, it just kind of like it does like a little sonic spin over you, and pops on the other side and stands up again and do its attack posture. Now with you off of its back and you on sand.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, all right, folks.
I'm gonna attack him again.
Okay, and I am going to also remind you guys, you do have a whistle on you. Your call. Just reminding you that it isn't your person. If you want to call an orbital strike from Jado, who you can see the barge from where you are, I imagine they're probably watching, enthralled or terrified from the barge.
Jado got me. If no one else got me, I know Jado got me.
So, Sienna, what's your move?
I will attack again.
Okay. Excellent. Entertainingly, everyone's attacking. So it's all independent rolls.
Let's go.
So let's go with the baby crabs.
Oh no.
Two successes. Is it a shelley?
Oh,
A
nice.
shillelagh. I love that.
Mhm.
Nice. That's fantastic, actually.
Oh yeah. And I get to add another success on top of that.
You do. So yeah, how do you want to deal with them? Because between you and Toffrin, that's enough to mop them up.
Nice.
Or at very least, like, do so much damage they are absolutely going to flee from you. You're no longer an easy meal, or even anything close like it. They're not going to stick around and die needlessly. But you're going to probably get a couple kills in.
Sorry. So Sayana runs up to the crabs. I'm just gonna kind of play out the whole fight since it's been pretty short so far. She runs up to the crabs, thinks like, oh, they're tiny, I've got this. Starts trying to poke them with the stabby end of her spear, which is functioning as an axe, but is actually just a hairpin that is very large. She keeps missing, but she's not too concerned about it until one of the crabs swipes her in the back, and she's like, that really hurt. Oh my goodness, that actually really hurt. Now I'm upset. Tries stabbing again. Doesn't seem to be working. She kind of looks at her weapon. Is like, oh, hang on here. Turns it around to where the ornament of the hairpin is, and just swings it like a golf club at these crabs and sends them flying.
That sounds perfect. This whole time, Toffrin's been more or less like mimicking you. Like, he doesn't have a shield, but basically just like, stay back, holding the stick back like it keeps them away. And whenever he needed to defend, going into bonk whenever he could. And these crabs make a bum rush at you, trying to cut at you and snap at you. A couple get like little pinches in. It hurts a lot wherever they pinch. But you and Toffrin just golf swing them. At least 3 crabs go flying, a couple in pieces, and land on the ground in varying layers of alive to not alive. And the other remaining, like, at this point, like 4 crabs just sort of like little antennas look at you. The eyes look at each other. They just laterally sprint away as quickly as they can along the beach. And you can just hear like chittering as they zoom by you, Dukan. You just hear nope, 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 in like a group chat.
That's funny.
Dukan, it's attack time. Make your roll. I see it right there. Oh my goodness. Okay, versus Crabman. What does Crabman say about this? Crabman, fight good now. Man, he's okay. You also have 6s if you want to use fate.
I did already. I got 2 2s. It sucked.
Oh, I saw that. Okay, yeah. So that's 3 successes, 4 successes, -1, 3 successes versus the crabs, 4 successes. It is an independent roll, so you're both hurting each other, regardless of whether or not each other succeeds. So, how do you want to hurt this thing?
I try to lop off a couple of its legs.
Okay. You go in for a hack with your halberd, and this thing brings one of its claws down, and it looks like it's going to snap at you with its little grabby bits, but instead, it goes in for the full-on crab hammer, brings the flat side of its body down, and you both land a solid blow on each other. This thing goes full-on, like, anime crater in the ground styles you, as your halberd chops down, and you can feel it hit one of the joints in one of the legs, and it breaks with a crunch, and then cuts through, and the leg falls off, and the thing stumbles and makes a high-pitched burbling shriek. You're both in a bad place. The crab isn't quite on its exact last legs, but a really good round of attack will fucking kill it.
I'm gonna fucking kill this crab!
Like, this thing can be killed this coming turn. It's just gonna be an uphill battle if you want to do it.
I'm gonna attack.
Okay. Sienna, what are you doing? Now that you handled your threat, and you can see Doom Crab going at the Dukan.
I am going to run up and golf swing at the Dune Crab's eyes to try and blind it.
Interesting. You're probably going to have to skitter up its shell to do that. So I'm going to say you can do that as a...
Oh yeah, it's pretty big.
This thing towers over you.
I do have a good amount of reach, though, with my weapon.
You could probably hit its mouth for sure. Like its mouth and its face. Its eyes are a little too high, like a little out of reach. But you could definitely like square in the nose.
Let's do that then. Try and disorient it.
All right. So if you're trying to disorient it, I'm gonna say that is a. We'll say that's a maneuver. So maneuver versus attack versus attack.
Okay.
So
is maneuver also fighter?
Nature or hunter, or no, it was nature
so.
or
lore or nature.
Lore. That's right.
I don't know if I have lore.
You might not.
Yeah, nature is probably the easier one, and it would be in your nature. So if you fail, you don't go down. Unless you don't lose nature points. Nice.
Well, I didn't fail, so.
Okay. Well, against you, this thing is defending, which, entertainingly, if I recall, defend versus your maneuver is a versus roll. So one of you two will succeed. This thing, being a crab, has the decapod maneuver, plus 1d to maneuver. So, but I have to choose whether he wants to use his claws or his decapod. He gets one of the two for this fight round. So he's going to go with...
Your mic just cut out, buddy. I can barely hear you.
Weird. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
That was weird. Okay. Basically got to choose one of two things. He gets to either choose to use his legs to move or use his claw to attack. They're both different tools. He only gets one per round. So he's going to use his claw to attack you, Derek, and he's going to take the hit on his ability to maneuver.
That's fair.
So this is going to be for him a 5d6 now? Ooh, boy. Okay. You're dead tied. Which means you both don't accomplish your shit. Unless you want to roll. So, unless if there's no additional rolling involved, what's going to happen is, so Sienna, you run up, you're going to bonk him in the face, and he looks at you and immediately like tries to sort of turn his shell. And what ends up happening is you hit his shell, knocking him a little off balance because one of his legs is now a stump. He isn't expecting that much weight to be put on the stump leg. And you don't hit him in the face. You hit him clearly one of those protected parts. So neither you really do anything except inconvenience each other. Derek, on the other hand, he is absolutely swinging for the fences with you, my dude.
Yep.
He's trying to, but man, he can't.
Wrecked. Crabe.
Yeah. How do you do with this?
So what is eventually going to evolve into Dukan's entire fighting style? He severs another of the legs, and then like another, and then like another, and as he's doing this, he's just like sprinting from like one side of the crab, like, and just like jumping and like slashing and jumping and slashing, and then like with his final swing down, he leaps high up into the air, like almost defying gravity with like how long he stays up, and then like seems to throw the fucking halberd down, like holding on to it at the same time, and just like crunches through the fucking crab's face, and white crab blood goes everywhere.
Noodle of war! And you absolutely do. Leap from one side, clash, one to the other, back and forth. And like from the size difference here, like you're not able to like fully dart side to side, but it's kind of like a full body slash, full body slash, full body, and everything you do, leg pieces go flying until this thing stumbles back onto its back, and you leap up and bring the axe down. It sinks into the soft pallet underneath its head. And the crab just instantly goes silent. Its whole body just seizes and goes limp. And you hear a sound as like the shell just like cracks open, like basically bisecting the animal under its underside. It's like white, translucent blood goes everywhere, and it's super dead.
Bisector.
And you can see as all this is happening, Tofrin is kind of just like, looking at this, and okay, so that was a lot.
Yeah.
I think they're coming closer. And he points off the side, and you can see like Jado is just like at the crank trying to get closer, and you can see the mouse next to him like making clearly like don't do it gestures, but he's trying to get the boat closer, probably to get out and hit the thing with his stick. He wanted to fight too.
I'm like kind of like panting probably at this point, like struggling using my halberd to like suspend myself and like kind of unslap my helm to where like it's showing my face again. I'm like, I'm gonna don't touch that crab. I'm gonna eat that. And then I just kind of like fall over.
Tonfron just kind of looks at you, Dukan, looks at Sienna, watches him fall over. He's not gonna eat that, is he?
I still wouldn't touch it to be on the safe side.
That's fair. Well, we're gonna want to get off the shore. Those crabs are gonna come back when they see all this. And he gestures at the giant dead crab. And you can see, like, prophetically, little ghost crabs popping their little eyes out of the hole, looking like...
But we eat that crab.
Looks like some dead... Yeah, that's a crab right there.
Is Dukan passed out, or just,
Nah, he's just taking a breather. He's
Okay.
in a lot of pain. He just needs to kind of lay down for a minute.
Alright. Eventually, I will say, Jado and the mouse assistant arrive and help you guys get onto the boat.
Don't you get off that boat, mouse assistant. I've been tasked to keep you safe. You stay where you are. We will handle this.
He's about to get off the longboat and just... Okay. And just, like, goes backwards and gets back to the little screw. Sits back there waiting for you guys to get on. Figure Jado would help you get onto the boat,
Yeah.
Dukan, but he'd also offer to lash the crab to the boat.
I was gonna ask if he could do that, actually.
He'll do it. I'll have him make his roll. He's himself actually pretty beefy.
Oh no, Jado.
He's gonna spend some extra dice for that.
Let's go, Jado.
There you go. That's good enough. So yeah, he sort of struggles, and for a minute, like, he realizes, oh shit, this thing is bigger than Dukan, and I'm smaller than Dukan by like a hair. Like, Jado's a hulk of a hedgehog, but he's not that big. Not bigger than this thing, but he eventually manages to realize he can't haul it over his head like everything else. He can certainly drag it by the stumps of its legs.
Hell
And
yeah.
so he does that out to the sea, lashes it to the longboat. And eventually, you all end up back at the expedition. And in front of Gwendolyn on the Invicta, who is waiting with Saxon and Preston for a debrief.
Let's go.
Up to you guys how much you want to roleplay it or not. But what do you tell them?
Could we maybe do that next session?
Sounds good. I know it's getting late.
Yeah.
So-
I just don't want to fucking like rush through it, and I am tired, and honestly, I'm really fucking thirsty, and I've been out of water for like 30 minutes.
Dude, that sounds good to me. We can end it here perfectly well, so we're going to say first off, because we had someone spend a point earlier, Dukan, your injured condition is immediately cleared.
Oh, thank you. Who did that?
I can't remember who it was.
Was it
I know
All Day?
someone was talking to me. I believe so, yeah.
Oh, thank
Very
you, all
beginning.
day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was like one of the first questions we had was like, hey, can we spend this point? I'm like, yeah, you can. So it is done.
Thank you.
Both of you two will decide what your downtime is on the fleet before this next session, but I'm going to award you experience quickly. First off, you both accomplished your side goals. So
Okay.
each of you get a persona point, just out of the
Yay.
gate. Derek, that was a hell of an awesome kill.
Thank you.
So I
You can
have
make
to
Jado
go.
armor out of it.
Absolutely. Oh, dude, Jado crab armor actually sounds pretty sick.
Jado's my fucking boy, dude.
I'm willing to say that your character, Derek, I'd say you embodied today in today's session. Like, your character, you dug deep. You even got into like that whole, hey, I recognize an oppressor when I see one. I've lived under one my whole life. And I didn't actually think about that angle, so well done.
Thank you.
Your choice of a fate or a persona point, I'll let you have your
Oh,
choice.
I need the fate. I'm down to 2.
Okay. And as for Sienna, I'm going to say that today your character was 100% the MVP. You carried us in a lot of ways, both for like basic rolling and also noticing little things like the mice and which direction they go. You basically found the plot. Like without you, you guys might have not seen that at all.
Good job.
So, yeah, 100%. Again, Fate or Persona, your call. And thank you both for playing as always. Much love.
Thank you.
Persona.
And with that, I turn it over to you, Derek, to close the baby out.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you, Omni. Thank you for running such a badass game, such an amazing session, dude. I really appreciate it. Much love. It was so much fun as always. Can't wait for
pleasure,
more
man.
Mouse Guard in a couple weeks. Yeah, let's do our shoutouts, folks. Natalie, where can people find you?
Mostly on this channel, playing Mouse Guard and Lancer, Call of Cthulhu, and D&D, but you'll go through all those when you talk about your stuff, because you are in all of those campaigns.
That's also
As is everyone else here, except for one, Booty, which Omni's not in, but all the rest, Omni, get to play with this awesome guy.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Otherwise, I'm on Twitter at LedZozoBeans, and that is about it.
Well, thank you, babe. Thank you for being here. Much appreciated as always. Omni, what's up, buddy?
Hey, everyone. Thank you, Derek. And thank you guys for playing today, as always. And I'm the Last Omnitect, your favorite robot American. You guys can catch me on my own stream tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. We'll be doing the Breakfast Club, so bring yourself some nice snacks, some food, bagel, toast, flapjacks, whatever works for you, bacon and eggs, salad if you're feeling a little healthy, what have you. And join us as we have ourselves our little brunch date with the community. In addition to that, if my internet could stop being weirdy there for a second.
Oh, mine's doing it too, actually.
Oh, okay, so it's not just me. Good.
No.
Okay, so anyhow, you guys can catch me 10:30 a.m. on the Breakfast Club. We'll be doing that tomorrow morning, playing some Destiny 2, doing more of our pirate season that's been going on. It's been pretty fun.
Season of Plunder.
Season of the Plunder. Yar. Anyone who wants to play with us, feel free to join us. Failing that, feel free to hang out. We'll be talking about a lot. There's a lot that's happened in the TTRPG community this week, so there will actually be topical discussion about TTRPG family business while I'm beating in like Elixni heads in Destiny 2.
Okay.
On Saturday, I'll be running the Stellar Forge, 10:30 a.m. EST, where we'll be world building in my Legacy TTRPG campaign and actively prepping for the coming campaign on this channel at some point. And I'm super excited about that. Been doing a lot of sketch art. You guys might spot that on my Twitter. And other than that, you guys can catch me on this channel, on Red's channel tomorrow, Redemption VA, and on Saturday here, DMDM Studios in the evening. It's gonna be awesome. I think it's not Lancer this week.
I think it is Lancer this week. We didn't do it last week.
Okay, I wasn't sure if we were alternating it again or if it was going to be Covet this time, and then we're going to go back to Lancer. I didn't know what it was.
I don't actually know. I think it's Lancer, but I don't know.
Okay. Either way, even a game when I love it, and it's with all these dorks. So please.
I'm sure the same people would come for Lancer that would come for Covet. So.
Damn straight. And that's me, Derek. Thank you as always for giving me this awesome time slot. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed Mouse Guard, and I'm really happy to run it for you.
Oh yeah, man! I love this campaign, and you're an amazing GM. I'm really grateful that you ran it for us, dude. Thank you. But yeah, thanks folks for being here. We sure appreciate you. We're going to be raiding into Party of 2 RPG, so stick around for that. If you like what you saw here, you can find us. Oops, I forgot the number there. Party of 2 RPG. You can find more of us. As everyone was saying, Call of Cthulhu Under the Jade Sky tomorrow on Redemption VA's channel right here at twitch.tv. On Friday, Saints and Sinners at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's a Runners in the Shadows actual play. On Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, we have Blood War hosted by our good friend Ampersand D20. On Saturday, either Lancer or Covet. I'm not really sure which one, but I think it's Lancer. I don't know. Be there for that, 6:30 on Saturday. Sunday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, Lost Haven by Night is hosted by Lost Haven Art himself. Go and check that out, 2 p.m. on Sunday. On Monday, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, Death Roll, a high-level Spelljammer campaign. Homebrew, crazy, shenanigans. We getting wild. We killing villages. We eating souls. We're diabolical in this bitch. If you fuck with any of that, check it out. 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on Mondays. On Wednesday, no stream next week. On Thursday, no stream next week. Good night, everybody. I love you.
Mhm.